The Ring of the Dove by Ibn Hazm. Translation by Muhammad Al-Amrani. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Contents. Author's preface. Preliminary excursus. The signs of love. On falling in love while asleep. On falling in love through a description. On falling in love at first sight. On falling in love after long association. On falling in love with a quality and thereafter not approving any other different of allusion by words. Of hinting with the eyes of correspondence. Of the messenger. Of concealing the secret. Of divulging the secret. Of compliance. Of opposition. Of the reproacher. Of the helpful brother. Of the spy. Of the slanderer. Of union. Of breaking off. Of fidelity. Of betrayal. Of separation. Of contentment. Of wasting away. Of forgetting. Of death. Of the vileness. Of sinning. Of the virtue of continence. Author's preface. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, thus spoke Abu Muhammad, may God forgive him. No more fitting commencement could there be for this book than to extol Almighty God as he deserves, and to seek his blessings upon Muhammad, his servant and messenger, and upon all his prophets. And next, may God shield us and you from confusion, and not impose upon us more than our strength can bear. May he, with his benevolent aid, grant us a guide to direct us towards obedience to his will, and provide us with his support to steer us away from transgressions against his commandments. May he not abandon us to our own frail resolutions and feeble capacities, to the fragility of our mortal forms and the turmoil of our thoughts, our flawed choices, our scant discernment, and the corruption of our desires. Your missive reached me from the city of Almeria to my abode in the court of Yativa, bearing the glad tidings of your health and prosperity. For this I offered thanks to God, praying that he might sustain your well-being and enhance your fortunes. Then, after a brief interval, I had the honour of your presence, for you journeyed to meet me, undeterred by the vast expanse that separated our homes, the distant location of our reunion, the immense distance to be covered, and the perils of the journey. There were also other impediments that could have dissuaded even the most ardent spirit and distracted the most steadfast memory, save for one like you, steadfast in loyalty, honouring those long-standing bonds and deep-rooted affections, the rights of childhood friendship and the companionship of youth, a true lover for the sake of God. Such is the bond that God has fashioned between us, and for this we offer praise and gratitude to him. In the aforementioned letter you conveyed thoughts surpassing what I had previously received from you. Upon your arrival you disclosed your intentions with the clarity that has always defined our interactions, sharing with me, as you have always done, your every joy and sorrow, your innermost thoughts and outward declarations. This was driven by true affection, which I reciprocate with twofold warmth, desiring no reward but to receive the same in return. It was upon this theme that I composed the following verses in a lengthy ode addressed to Ubayd God ibn Abd al-Rahman ibn al-Mughirah, the great-grandson of the Caliph al-Nasir, may God have mercy upon him, who was a cherished friend of mine. The fleeting desires that most men vaunt are but mirages shimmering in the desert's midday glare. Yet my love for thee is an enduring flame, unfading through the passage of all my earthly days. This deep affection I avow for thee is untainted, a sacred trust within my soul I hold. The mark of true love is etched upon my heart, its timeless story inscribed there for all to behold. Had any other passion apart from thine ever dared to claim dominion over my spirit, I would have rent asunder this unworthy frame of mine, and cast out that intruder from the depths of my being. No other treasure do I yearn to gain, thy love alone is the quest of my earnest longing. Upon this sole theme do my words ever dwell, seeking to win the gentle favour of thine ear. Should I attain this prize, the vastness of the earth and all its teeming multitudes would shrink to mere dust. Indeed, the countless denizens of this wide world would seem as naught but flies creeping upon its barren rind. I embark upon this endeavour at your behest. May God elevate your status, to weave for you a tapestry of words on the essence of love. I am tasked to unveil its manifold meanings, its origins and incidental manifestations, and the myriad transformations it undergoes in truth's unadorned light. I shall neither embellish nor exaggerate, but lay bare only that which I know, recounting events as they transpired, to the fullest reach of my memory and the bounds of my humble capacity. With haste I have sought to fulfil your noble desire, though, were it not for my yearning to honour your command, I would have shied from such a monumental undertaking. My spirit, impoverished as it is, scarce dares to approach so vast a theme. Indeed, given the fleeting nature of our earthly sojourn, it befits us to devote our brief span to pursuits that promise a boundless hereafter and a radiant homecoming on the morrow. Yet I am reminded by the words of Qadi Imam Ibn Ahmad, who, tracing a lineage of wisdom through Yahya ibn Malik and Aid to Abu el-Darda, conveyed the counsel, "Refresh your souls with a touch of vanity, that they may better cling to the truth." A venerable father of faith once proclaimed, "He who has never learned the grace of a cavalier's bearing will never grasp the true essence of God-fearing piety." And the Prophet, peace be upon him, is reported to have said, "Grant rest to your souls from time to time, for they are prone to rust, just as steel is wont to tarnish." In answering this charge, I must weave my narrative from the threads of my own witness, the fruits of diligent inquiry, and the testimonies of trustworthy souls from my era. I crave your pardon if at times I veil the names of the protagonists in my tales, offering mere hints rather than explicit mention. This restraint arises either from a reticence to unveil what ought to remain cloaked in shame, or from a desire to shield a beloved companion or an eminent figure. I shall name only those whose mention brings no harm, whose stories bear no reproach to us or to them, either because their affairs are so widely known that concealment avails naught, or because the one recounted rejoices in the public telling of their tale, finding no fault in its dissemination. Within these pages I shall intersperse verses of my own crafting, born of personal observation. I beseech you, my friend, and any who may chance upon this tome, not to take offence at my adherence to the custom of poets, who oft quote their own musings in their chronicles. Such is the way of those who tread the path of verse. Moreover, my companions' modesty restrains me from narrating their private ventures in their own guise. Thus I confine myself to what has befallen me, within the limits you have set, ascribing each incident to my own person. I have adhered strictly to your prescribed bounds, recounting only what my eyes have beheld or what I hold as true from credible sources. Spare me the ancient tales of Bedouin lovers or those of bygone days. Their ways diverge from ours, and their stories are already legion. I am not one to burden another's steed, nor to adorn myself in borrowed finery. In all this I seek God's forgiveness and his succour, for there is no sustainer save him. Preliminary Excursus. I have apportioned this treatise into 30 chapters, each a facet of love's boundless prism. The first 10 illuminate the foundational principles of love, commencing with the chapter on the signs of love, which follows anon. Thereafter I explore those who have fallen in love while asleep. Then those who have fallen in love through a description, next those who have fallen in love at first sight, followed by those whose love has only blossomed after long association, a chapter on allusion by words, another on hinting with the eyes, then one on correspondence, and concluding this first part a chapter on the messenger. The second segment comprises 12 chapters, delving into the vicissitudes of love, its virtues and its faults. Here I must interject that love, in truth, is an accident, an attribute not itself subject to further accidents or qualifications. Thus, in speaking of love's accidents and attributes, I employ a metaphor, placing the attribute instead of the essence it qualifies. When we perceive one accident as greater or lesser, more beautiful or less comely than another, we apprehend their disparity only in their manifest and knowable nature, not in numerical measure or physical division, for they occupy no space. This section unfolds with a chapter on the helping friend, followed by one on union, then on concealing the secret, and thereafter chapters on revealing and divulging the secret, on compliance and on opposition, a chapter on those who have fallen in love with a certain quality and thereafter loved naught else contrary to it, and further chapters on fidelity, betrayal, wasting away and death. In the third part, 6 chapters address the misfortunes that shadow love. These treat of the reproacher, the spy, the slanderer, breaking off, separation and forgetting. Of these, two are paired with contrasting chapters previously mentioned. The reproacher stands opposite the helping friend and breaking off mirrors union. The remaining four lack direct opposites within love's repertoire. The spy and the slanderer find no counterpoint save their utter absence. The essence of opposites lies in this. When one state emerges, its contrary is effaced despite the varied disputations of scholars. I would have delved deeper into this discourse were it not for fear of straying too far from the heart of this treatise. As for separation, its true antithesis would be the contiguity of abodes. Yet contiguity finds no place among love's themes which are our present concern, and the opposite of forgetting is love itself, for to forget is to erase love's very existence. Finally, two concluding chapters crown this discourse, one on the vileness of sinning and another on the virtue of continence. I have thus structured the work so that our discourse culminates in an exhortation to obey Almighty God, urging the pursuit of good and the shunning of evil, a duty incumbent upon all who believe. Yet in the unfolding of these chapters, I have at times diverged from the order outlined herein. I have arranged them sequentially from inception to conclusion, according to their rightful precedence, their gradations and their lived reality, progressing methodically from the first degree to the last. I have also juxtaposed each pair of opposites, which has necessitated a departure from the initial sequence in certain instances. Again, I seek God's aid. Thus, my final arrangement of this material is as follows. I place foremost this chapter, wherein we now dwell, encompassing the preliminary excursus, the division of chapters, and a discourse on the nature of love. It is succeeded by the chapter on the signs of love, then those who have fallen in love through a description, then those who have fallen in love at first sight, followed by those who have only fallen in love after long association, then those who have fallen in love with a certain quality, and thereafter loved naught else contrary to it, then allusion by words, then hinting with the eyes, then correspondence, then the messenger, then concealing the secret, then divulging the secret, then compliance, then opposition, then the reproacher, then the helpful brother, then the spy, then the slanderer, then union, then breaking off, then fidelity, then betrayal, then separation, then contentment, then wasting away, then forgetting, then death, then the vileness of sinning, and at last the virtue of continence. Of the nature of love, may God exalt your soul. Its dawn is playful jest, yet its dusk is profound earnestness. So sublime are its myriad visages that they elude mere description. Their truth can only be grasped through the heart's own journey. Love is neither condemned by faith nor forbidden by sacred law, for every heart lies within God's sovereign grasp. Many among the rightly guided caliphs and orthodox imams have been touched by love's flame. Of those who graced our cherished Andalusia, I recall Abd al-Rahman ibn Muawiyah, enamoured of Darja, al-Hakam ibn Hisham, Abd al-Rahman ibn al-Hakam, whose ardent love for Tarub, mother of his son Abd God, shines brighter in men's memory than the sun itself. Muhammad ibn Abd al-Rahman, renowned for his devotion to Ghizlan, who bore him Uthman, al-Qasim and al-Mutarif, and al-Hakam al-Mustansir, who adored Sub, mother of Hisham al-Muayyad Billah, cherishing no child but hers with such singular passion. In the tapestry of human history, countless are the tales woven with threads of passion and desire. Yet constrained by the reverence due to our sovereigns, whose dignity commands the veneration of all believers, we must confine our narratives to those episodes that exalt martial valour and the dissemination of faith. Their private affections, concealed within the secluded chambers of their palaces, and the intimate embrace of their kin, remain beyond the bounds of decorum to recount. Were it not for such constraints, I would have unfurled many a story of their romantic entanglements. As for the statesmen and stalwarts of the realm, their tender dalliances are beyond enumeration. A recent spectacle unfolded before our very eyes, the fervent love of al-Muzaffar Abd al-Malik ibn Abi Amir for the daughter of Wahid, the humble cheese merchant, a love so profound that it led to their union in marriage. She in time passed as an inheritance to the Grand Vizier Abd God ibn Maslama after the downfall of the Amirids. And when Abd-God met his tragic end, she became the consort of a Berber chieftain. Another such tale was imparted to me by Abu Laish ibn Maimun al-Qurashi al-Husayni. Nizar ibn Ma'd, ruler of Egypt, withheld his gaze from his son Mansur ibn Nizar, the heir who later proclaimed divinity, for a long span after his birth, so as to shield the feelings of a beloved slave girl with whom he was deeply enamoured, despite having no other male progeny to perpetuate his lineage and preserve his legacy. Of the saints and erudite scholars of bygone eras, whose lives unfolded in distant ages, some have left behind love poetry that bears eloquent witness to their ardour, rendering further elaboration unnecessary. It suffices to invoke the name of Ubayd God ibn Abd God ibn Utbah ibn Masud, renowned for his delicate verses and who, as memory serves, was among the illustrious 7 jurists of Medina. As for Ibn Abbas, a single pronouncement of his suffices to eclipse the need for additional citations. He declared with solemn authority, "This man was slain by love. Thus, there is no claim for blood money or retribution." On the essence of love, humanity has woven a rich fabric of diverse and conflicting thoughts, debated through the ages with fervour. For myself, I perceive love as a celestial reunion of fragmented souls, once sundered in this corporeal realm, now melded within the sublime essence of their primordial origin. I diverge from the perspective of Muhammad ibn Dawood, may God's mercy envelop his soul, who, echoing certain philosophers, posited that spirits are but segmented spheres. Instead, I envision an affinity of vital energies in the ethereal realm, their eternal abode, and a profound kinship in their very constitution. The mystery of union and separation in the created order is naught but a dance of convergence and divergence. Every form yearns for its counterpart, like finding solace with like. Congruence exerts a palpable influence, a visible sway, the repulsion of opposites, the harmony of similars, the magnetic pull of like to like. These are truths manifest all around us. How much more then must these forces stir within the soul, whose domain is pure and ethereal, whose substance is volatile and exquisitely balanced, whose essence is attuned to harmony, longing, aversion, fervent desire, and deep antipathy. This is a universal truth, evident in the shifting moods that govern every soul, to which we all adapt with intuitive grace. God himself affirms, "It is he that created you of one soul, and fashioned thereof its spouse, that he might find repose in her." Quran 11, 189. Note well that the divine reason for man's repose in woman lies in her being fashioned from him. If love were merely a response to physical allure, then no form marred by imperfection would ever captivate the heart. Yet we witness many a soul drawn to the lesser beauty, fully aware of a greater charm elsewhere, yet unable to divert their affection. Likewise, if love stemmed from a mere alignment of temperaments, no one would cherish another whose aims and essence were discordant with their own. Thus, I surmise that love is an intrinsic quality of the soul itself. At times, indeed, love arises from an external cause, yet it dissipates when that cause vanishes. One who holds you dear for a fleeting reason will turn away when that motive fades. This truth I have captured in verses of my own crafting. My love for thee shall ever stand, most perfect, pure, by no hand spanned. It knows no growth, nor yet decline, for it is whole and wholly thine. No cause I find, save my own will, to love thee and to love thee still. I challenge any soul to name another root for this sweet flame. For when a thing's sole cause we see as its own self, its own decree, that essence, born of its own kind, lives ever, boundless, unconfined. But if its source lies not within, and other than itself begins, the loss of that which gave it breath brings swift annihilation, death. This insight is borne out by the manifold nature of love, which manifests in diverse forms. The noblest of these is the bond between souls united in God, whether through shared zeal for righteous endeavours, harmony in creed and principle, or the mutual possession of lofty wisdom. Next comes the love rooted in kinship, then the affection born of familiarity and shared aspirations, the camaraderie of fellowship, the warmth inspired by benevolence toward another, the attachment driven by ambition for worldly gain through the beloved. The bond forged by a shared secret both must guard, the love seeking mere pleasure and gratification of desire, and finally the passionate love whose sole origin is that union of souls to which I have alluded. All these shades of love wax and wane with their causes, intensifying with proximity and waning with distance. They grow fervent as their roots draw near and languish as they drift apart. The sole exception is the love of true passion, which holds dominion over the soul, a love that endures until the final breath. You may encounter an elder, advanced in years, who claims to have forsaken love entirely, yet, when memory is stirred, he recalls that ardour with joy, youthful longing rekindled, old emotions awakened, and deep yearning revived. No other form of love evokes such a phenomenon: the mental obsession, the derangement of reason, the melancholy, the upheaval of settled natures, the alteration of innate dispositions, the moodiness, the sighs, and all the tumultuous signs of profound agitation that accompany passionate love. This bears witness that true love is a spiritual communion, a melding of souls. One might object that if love were as I describe, it should be equally felt by both parties as two halves united in perfect symmetry. To this I respond that the objection holds merit, yet the soul of one who loves without reciprocation is shrouded by earthly veils and encumbrances, those base temperaments that now overlay it, such that it cannot perceive the fragment once joined to it before inhabiting this mortal frame. Were it freed from such constraints, the two would share an equal experience of union and love. As for the lover, his soul is unshackled, keenly aware of that other part with which it shared ancient nearness. It ceaselessly seeks, yearns, and strives to reunite, drawing the other to itself as a magnet draws iron. The innate force of a magnet, when touching the essence of iron, lacks the potency or finesse to seek it out, despite their shared nature. Rather, it is the iron's inherent vigour that reaches toward its kin, drawn irresistibly to it. Motion ever proceeds from the mightier force. The iron, unimpeded by restraint, naturally and necessarily hastens to its like with singular devotion, not by choice but by essence. If you restrain the iron in your grasp, its attraction to the magnet ceases, for its strength cannot overcome the greater force binding it. When particles of iron abound, they occupy one another, content within their own kind, indifferent to a distant fragment of their essence. Yet when the magnet's mass is vast, its force equaling all within the iron's domain, the iron reverts to its primal inclination. So too the fire latent within flint, despite its inherent urge to unite and summon its scattered kin, remains dormant until the stone is struck. When the masses collide and rub in close embrace, the fire is unleashed. Otherwise, it lies hidden, unmanifest within the flint. My conviction is further affirmed by the observation that never do two souls fall in love without some likeness or accord in their innate qualities. This harmony, however slight, must exist. The greater the similarities, the deeper the congruence, and the stronger the bond. One need only seek this truth to find it evident on every side. The messenger of God confirmed this when he said, "Spirits are regimented battalions. Those which know one another associate familiarly together, while those which do not remain at variance." A saint is reported to have declared, "The spirits of believers know one another." For this same reason, Hippocrates remained unperturbed when told of a man lacking in virtue who harboured love for him. When the matter was remarked upon, he replied, "He would not have loved me had I not shared some facet of my character with him." Plato recounts how a king unjustly imprisoned him, yet he persisted in pleading his innocence until the monarch recognized his error. The minister tasked with conveying Plato's words to the king exclaimed, "O king, his innocence is now clear. What remains between you?" The king replied, "By my life, I bear him no ill will, save for an inexplicable aversion I feel within." When the minister relayed this to Plato, the latter reflected, "I was compelled to search within my soul and character for a point of resonance with his, a bridge between us. I observed that he cherished equity and abhorred injustice, and I found the same disposition in myself. No sooner did I activate this shared trait and present it to his soul than he ordered my release." Plato relates that the king then confided to his minister, "All the antipathy I once felt toward him has now dissolved." As to why love often alights upon a beautiful form, it is manifest that the soul, being itself beautiful, is stirred by all things lovely, yearning for perfect harmonious images. Whenever it beholds such a form, it fixes upon it. If it discerns behind that visage a kindred essence, it unites with it, and true love is born. Yet, if no such kinship is found beyond the surface, the affection remains mere carnal desire, bound to the form alone. Indeed, physical beauty possesses a wondrous power to gather the scattered fragments of human souls into unity. In the annals of sacred lore, as recounted in the first book of the Pentateuch, I have pondered the tale of the prophet Jacob, peace be upon him. In the days of yore, while tending the flocks of his uncle Laban as a dowry for his daughter's hand, Jacob entered into a covenant with Laban concerning the offspring of the sheep. Those lambs born of a single hue were to be his, while those marked with a white blaze would fall to Laban's share. With subtle ingenuity, Jacob took branches of trees, peeling the bark from half their length, leaving the other half untouched, and cast them into the waters where the flock came to drink. At the opportune moment he guided the pregnant ewes to this spot, and in due course they bore lambs, half of uniform colour for himself, and half adorned with a blaze for Laban. Thus, through nature's silent influence, the unseen hand of design shaped the visible outcome. In another curious narrative, I came upon the account of a physiognomist who was presented with a child of dark complexion, born to parents of fair skin. Scrutinizing the infant's features, he affirmed the child's lineage to the couple. Seeking further insight, he inquired about the place where the parents had shared their intimate moments. Led to their marital chamber, he beheld a painting of a dark-skinned man affixed upon the wall, directly in the woman's line of sight. With discerning clarity, he declared to the father, "It is this image that has imprinted itself upon your progeny, giving rise to such a son." Herein lies a mystery of the mind's eye, where the external vision weaves itself into the fabric of creation. The poets among the scholastics, in their eloquent verses, oft explore this interplay of sight and soul, addressing the outer form as though it were an inner truth of the heart. This theme resonates in the works of Al-Nizam Ibrahim, Ibn Sayyar, and other learned minds. I too have ventured to weave this notion into my own poetry, as in the lines that follow. No other source of triumph exists. When we vanquish our foes in strife, no other cause for retreat persists before their advance as I perceive life, save that the souls of all humankind, in fervent and unified accord, O pearl within mortal hearts enshrined, yearn to embrace thee, their cherished Lord. Thus, wherever thy light doth lead, none who follow shall linger behind. Guided by thy radiant creed, all find the path and victories bind. Yet when thou standest at the rear, the warriors mirror thy chosen way, heeding their hearts' unspoken prayer. They turn to join thee without delay. On this same theme I have crafted another ode, which I offer here. Art thou of the celestial choir, or dost thou share our earthly kin? My bewildered gaze cannot aspire to fathom thee. Confusion reigns within. My outward eye beholds in thee a form of mortal human grace, yet inward reason whispers to me, thy essence bears a heavenly trace. Blessed be God, who shaped with care his creation in symmetry so fine, and made thee a light, radiant and rare, to illumine all with beauty divine. Thou art the primal spirit, I believe, as my soul affirms with steadfast art, a kinship of hearts we did receive, binding us in affinity from the start. No proof of thy mortal state we hold, save that thy visible charm we see, impinging on our eyes, vivid and bold, a testament to thy reality. Were thy essence not manifest here, in this realm of time and bounded space, we would proclaim with faith sincere, thou art pure reason, sublime in grace. A companion of mine has named another of my compositions, the imaginative perception from which I draw these lines. All contraries in him converge, as thou dost witness with thine eyes. How then shall such diverse surge of meanings be defined or surmised? O wondrous form beyond measure's scope, O essence untouched by change or chance, thou art an accident that doth not elope, immune to fate's fleeting dance. Thou severest the tangled knots of scholars' endless debate and strife, and in thy light so gently wrought makest the truth apparent to life. This same principle unfolds in the realm of hatred, where two souls may harbour enmity without apparent cause, driven solely by an irrational aversion, a shadow cast by unseen forces upon the heart. Love, may God elevate thy station, is a perplexing affliction, a malady whose cure aligns with the intensity of its embrace. It is a sickness of sweetest delight, a cherished ailment. Whosoever is untouched by it yearns not for immunity, and whosoever is smitten desires no reprieve. Love transforms the once disdained into a vision of allure, renders the arduous effortless, and reshapes ingrained natures and inherent dispositions, a theme I shall explore briefly in its rightful place, God willing. Among my acquaintances, I once knew a youth ensnared by love's relentless grip, entangled in its unyielding coils. Passion had ravaged him, illness had worn him thin, yet his soul sought no solace in beseeching the Almighty for relief. His lips uttered no plea for liberation. His soul's supplication was for union with his beloved, to possess and be possessed, despite the immensity of his torment and the endless stretch of his anguish. What shall one think of a patient who craves not to be cured of his affliction? One day, as I sat with him, pained by the evident marks of his suffering, his bowed head, his vacant stare, I spoke, among other words, "May God grant thee ease." Instantly I discerned upon his visage a profound displeasure at my utterance. Reflecting on such a state, I composed these verses, part of a longer poem. O rare delight, these pangs that rend my heart, dear hope for thy sweet end. Through every day in all my pain I shall not release thee, come what may again. Should any soul dare to proclaim, thou shalt one day forget his flame, my sole reply, steadfast and true, shall be an eternal, resolute no to you. This stands in stark contrast to the account shared with me by Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Qasim ibn Muhammad al-Qurashi, known more widely as al-Shabanisi, a descendant of Imam Hisham ibn Abd al-Rahman ibn Muawiyah. He confided that never had he loved another, nor grieved at parting from a friend, nor in all his days crossed the boundary of mere companionship into the realm of ardent affection or passionate love. The signs of love. Love bears certain marks, discernible to the perceptive mind and evident to the astute observer. Foremost among them is the lingering gaze, for the eye is the expansive portal of the soul, the revealer of its hidden depths, the conveyor of its most intimate musings, and the mirror of its profoundest emotions. You shall behold the lover's eyes fixed upon the beloved, unyielding in their focus, tracing every gesture, retreating as he retreats, inclining as he inclines, much like the chameleon's gaze shifts with the sun's journey across the heavens. I have captured this in verse, from which I quote, "My eye finds no repose elsewhere, save in thy presence, sweet and fair. Men say the lodestone holds such might, to draw as I with ceaseless sight. To right or left it follows thee, thy motions traced in symmetry, as adjectives in speech align with nouns, their essence to define." The lover directs his words to the beloved, even when feigning to address another. The pretence is clear to any with vision to perceive. When the beloved speaks, the lover listens with enraptured attention, marvelling at every utterance, however strange or absurd, believing him wholly even in evident falsehood, agreeing despite clear error, bearing witness in his favour, though he be unjust, trailing after him regardless of path or argument. The lover hastens to the beloved's side, seeks the nearest seat to him, edges closer, abandons all tasks that might draw him away, trivializes matters of grave import to remain in his company, and lingers with reluctance when parting is inevitable. I have woven this into poetry thus: no captive bound for doom's grim fate leaves his cell with heavier gait than I, when from thy side I part, with aching, sorrow-laden heart. Yet when, my darling, comes the hour that we may join in sweet accord, I rush as swift as moonlight's power climbs the sky's celestial ward. Alas, that bliss must fade once more. I linger, loath to bid adieu, turning slow as stars of yore descend from heaven's boundless view. Other tokens of love manifest in sudden disarray and fervour when the lover unexpectedly beholds the beloved approaching, or in the agitation that seizes him upon sighting one resembling his beloved, or hearing his name abruptly spoken. This I have expressed in verse, thus: "Whene'er mine eyes a figure spy, in crimson garb my soul doth cry, my heart is torn with piercing dread, and anguish leaves me comfortless, led. His playful glance, as I surmise, hath spilled such blood of mortal kind, that now his robes in scarlet guise are dyed with saffron cruelly signed. A lover gives without restraint beyond his means, as though he were the recipient of bounty, his joy the aim, all to display his virtues and render himself desirable. How oft has the miser loosened his purse, the stern softened his brow, the timid charged boldly into battle. The dull-witted turned sharp, the crude become refined, the unkempt transformed into elegance, the slovenly grown neat, the aged reclaimed their youth, the pious strayed, the restrained cast off decorum, all in the name of love. These signs emerge even before love's flame is fully kindled, ere its blaze surges forth, its fire intensifies, its embers glow fierce. Yet when love truly takes hold firmly rooted, then shall you witness whispered secrets, an unabashed turning from all others save the beloved. I have gathered many such signs into verse, from which I draw, I yearn to hear men speak thy name, amid their talk a cherished flame, the very air I breathe turns sweet, with amber's scent that moment complete. Yet when thou speakest, none other near claims my ear, my heart sincere, I lean to catch thy tender play, thy charming words, thy winsome way. Even if beside me sat the Prince of Faithful, none could me convince to turn my mind from thee, my love, for thou art all I dream and prove. And if by dire fate I must rise to bid farewell with tearful eyes, I stumble wounded in my pace, my gaze still fixed on thy dear face. My body drifts, yet eyes remain, as one o'erwhelmed by ocean's pain looks drowning to the distant shore, yearning for what he sees no more. When I recall how far thou art, I choke in grief's engulfing part, weary as one who sinks to fade, in mire deep or fire's fierce raid. Yet if thou ask, dost thou aspire to heaven's heights, to realms higher? I answer bold, indeed I will, I know the steps to climb that hill. Other visible signs of love, apparent to all with discerning sight, include boundless joy at being confined with the beloved in a narrow space, and a corresponding melancholy in vast expanses together. Playful contests over trifles seized by either hand, covert winks, leaning toward and resting against the beloved, striving to touch his hand or any reachable part during discourse, and sipping from the cup's remnant, seeking the very spot kissed by his lips. Thus love reveals itself in myriad silent gestures, eloquent beyond words. There exist in the realm of the heart contrary manifestations that arise from fleeting provocations and chance incitements, stirred by manifold causes and awakened by diverse musings. In truth, opposites are akin, for when divergence reaches its furthest extreme and contrariety stands at the uttermost boundary, the two converge in resemblance. Such is the decree of God's boundless might, a mystery that eludes the grasp of human imagination. Consider how ice, when clasped long in the hand, burns akin to fire, how profound joy and deep sorrow alike may extinguish life, how unrestrained laughter summons tears to the eyes. This is a recurring marvel in the world that surrounds us. So it is with lovers. When their mutual ardour burns with equal intensity, and their affection binds them in fierce unity, they may turn against one another without just cause, each wilfully opposing the other's words, disputing vehemently over trifles, seizing upon every utterance to misconstrue its intent. These stratagems serve but to probe and affirm the depth of what each seeks in the other. Yet the distinction between this feigned discord and true enmity, born of entrenched hatred and enduring strife, lies in the swift reconciliation of lovers. You shall behold a pair who seem to have reached the pinnacle of discord, such that you might deem their rift unmendable even for the most serene of spirits, free of malice, save after a prolonged span, and utterly irreparable in a contentious soul. Yet, in the blink of an eye, you will witness them restored as the dearest of companions, their mutual reproaches silenced, their disharmony dissolved. Forthwith they laugh once more and engage in playful mirth. Such a scene may unfold repeatedly within a single gathering. When you observe lovers thus, let no doubt cloud your mind, no hesitation taint your certainty. Know with unwavering conviction that a profound and veiled secret dwells between them, the secret of true love. Take this, then, as an infallible test, a universal truth. It is the hallmark solely of an equal bond in love, a harmonious union of hearts. I myself have borne witness to this time and again. Another sign manifests when you find the lover nigh beseeching to hear the beloved's name spoken, deriving boundless joy in discoursing of him, the subject becoming an all-consuming fixation. Nothing so gladdens his spirit, and he remains unrestrained by the fear that a listener might discern his hidden passion or a bystander grasp his true intent. Love for a soul renders one blind and deaf to all else. If the lover could contrive it, he would ensure that wherever he finds himself, no topic but his beloved should be broached, and he would never forsake that place for any other in the vastness of the world. It may come to pass that a man deeply touched by love begins his meal with hearty appetite, yet the moment the thought of his beloved stirs within him, the food catches in his throat, choking his passage. So too with drink or discourse. He may converse with you in cheerful tones, only to be suddenly overtaken by a fleeting recollection of his dear one. You shall note the shift in his speech, the abrupt faltering of his words. The telltale signs are his prolonged silences, his gaze fixed upon the earth, his profound reticence. One instant he is all smiles, gesturing with ease. The next he is withdrawn, lethargic, distracted, rigid, too weary to utter a word, vexed by the most innocuous query. Among love's tokens are a penchant for solitude and a delight in seclusion, accompanied by a wasting of the frame, unmarred by fever or pain that hinders movement or freedom. The gait, too, betrays an unfailing sign of an inner weariness of spirit. Sleeplessness afflicts lovers as a common plight. The poets have oft sung of this state, recounting how they gaze upon the stars and lament the night's endless stretch. I, too, have penned verses on this theme, wherein I touch upon the safeguarding of love's secret and the omens by which it may be foretold. The clouds, beholding my tears' descent, a lesson from my sorrow rent, and veiled the arid earth below with torrents of a flooding flow. Has the night for thy sake grown kin to share the grief I harbour within, or will it perchance bring aid to soothe this vigil, weary and frayed? For if night's shadows refuse to flee, and yield not to dawn's radiant decree, until my eyes, by burdens pressed, in weary slumber find their rest, I deem no path remains to guide me back to day's illumined tide, but ever-growing sleeplessness shall each fleeting moment oppress. And now dark veils obscure the sky, hiding starlight from my weary eye, shrouding from my anxious sight the solace of their flickering light. Such inner torment of the soul, loving thee, dearest, takes its toll only surmise can truly gauge, and proclaim my heart's hidden rage. Another of my compositions, from which I draw a fragment, echoes this same sentiment. I am the shepherd of the celestial dome, entrusted to guard where planets roam, the stars that steadfast in their course, unswerving, trace their heavenly force. As they, with lamps aloft by night, illumine earth in radiant flight, so burn the fires of love, a light within my breast's dark, endless night. Or I, perchance, a gardener seem, of verdant meadows in a dream, where through the grass, in shy delight, the white narcissus winks its light. Were Ptolemy alive to see, he'd name me master, verily, of all the arts that chart the skies, a maestro of the stars, reprise. A thing is oft named for the cause that births it. In the verses just cited, I have likened two pairs of entities within a single stanza, as in the second of the poem beginning, those as they swing their lamps above. This is deemed a rarity in poetic craft. Yet I offer a still finer display of artistry from my own oeuvre, the comparison of three, nay, even four pairs within one stanza, as in the lines that follow, still yearning, with unrest profound, still sleepless on his bed his bound, his wits inebriate and wild, with calumny's harsh wine defiled. He unveils to thee in fleeting span wonders that reason's grasp outran, now foe, now friend with heart sincere, now fleeing far, now pressing near, as if this passion, this rebuke, to soothe or scorn, to spurn or look, were stars in union or in flight, fortune's favour or cruel spite. After long denial, at last he showed mercy on my love outcast, and I, who envied others' fate, now stand as envy's marked estate. Together in a garden bright with blooms, we passed a day of light, while whispering flowers in sweet accord gave thanks to God for morn's reward. As if the dawn's rain, pure and meek, the clouds and that sweet fragrant creek were tears that fall and eyes bedewed, and cheeks with roseate hues imbued. Let none censure me, nor take offence at my use of conjoining. For those versed in the celestial sciences speak of two stars meeting in a single degree as a conjunction. I have not yet depleted my treasury of verse, for I can present a yet more exquisite feat, the likening of 5 pairs within a single stanza, as in the lines I now offer. She sat with me in secret tryst, and wine our third did not resist, while night, in deep and shadowy flight, spread wide its stealthy sable might. A damsel fair death it embrace, ere live apart from her sweet face. And is it such a grievous sin to crave this fleeting life within? It was as if myself and she, the cup, the wine, the dark decree, were earth and raindrops, pearls on thread, and gold and jet in union wed. This marks the utmost limit beyond which none may venture. Neither the laws of prosody nor the structure of language permit more than 5 comparisons within a single stanza. Trepidation seizes lovers in twin circumstances. The first arises when the lover anticipates meeting the beloved, only for some hindrance to thwart the longed-for union. I knew a man whose beloved had pledged to visit him. Thereafter I saw him ceaselessly pacing, unable to remain still or fixed in one place, now advancing, now retreating. Joy had rendered him agile and sprightly, though once he was of grave and measured demeanour. I have crafted verses on this theme of awaiting the beloved's arrival. I lingered still, till night's dark veil descended, yet my hope did not fail, to meet thee, O my heart's sole aim, my quest for whom my soul doth flame. I, who near despaired through endless night, at length to dark despair took flight, when shadow o'ercame my waning light. Moreover, I offer proof unerring, that falsehood cannot be averring. Such riddles solve, where reason's stilled, as mysteries by truth are filled. If thou shouldst deign one night to come, no darkness would my soul benumb, but light eternal would remain, dispelling night's obscuring chain. The second source of trepidation emerges when discord erupts between the loving pair, unleashing a storm of reproaches whose true roots demand intricate unravelling. Then the lover's agitation surges with fierce intensity, persisting until the matter is laid bare. Either the weight he bears is lifted, if hope of pardon glimmers, or his fear transforms into grief and despair, should he dread the beloved's lasting estrangement. Yet the lover may humbly yield to the beloved's harshness, a theme to be elaborated in its fitting place, God willing. Among the vicissitudes of love is an acute impatience under affliction, a tempest of emotion that wholly overwhelms the lover, rendering him mute, as when he beholds his beloved turning away in undisguised disdain. I have penned a couplet touching upon this. Fair fortitude lies bound in chains, while tears from eyes in torrents wane. Another mark of love is the lover's affection for the beloved's kin and the intimates of his household, such that they become dearer to him than his own blood, his very self, and all his familiar companions. Weeping, too, is a renowned sign of love, though men vary widely in this regard. Some weep readily, their tear ducts ever brimming, their eyes swift to mirror their emotions, tears cascading at the slightest prompt. Others are dry-eyed, barren of tears. To this latter group I belong. This stems from my custom of consuming frankincense to quell the palpitations that have plagued me since youth. When struck by some grievous shock, I feel my heart rend and shatter within. A choking bitterness, more acrid than colocynth, grips my chest, hindering my speech and at times nearly suffocating me. Thus, my eyes seldom answer to my inner turmoil, and when they do, my tears are but scant. In reflecting upon the words I have penned, a memory stirs within me of a poignant day when I, alongside my steadfast companion Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Ishaq, stood to bid a tender farewell to our beloved friend Abu Amin Muhammad ibn Amir. May the Almighty enfold him in his infinite mercy. It was the eve of his journey to the distant east, a voyage from which he would never return to our sight. As we parted, Abu Bakr, overcome by sorrow, let tears flow freely, and recited verses that echoed his anguish. When thou on Wasit's field didst fall, struck down to dust, what I withheld its final tears for thee was indeed barren, lifeless, and unfeeling. These lines, drawn from an elegy for Yazid ibn Umar ibn Hubayra, may God's mercy rest upon his soul, resounded in the air as we stood upon the shores of Malaga. A deep sorrow gripped my heart, yet my eyes refused to yield to tears. In response to Abu Bakr's poignant words, I offered my own. The heart that did not weep, steadfast as a stoic, its courage a heroic shield, when thou departed, leaving it solitary, that heart verily was forged of stone. I recall, too, an ode I composed in the tender years before maturity, adhering to the timeless conventions of those who ponder such themes. Allow me to share its opening strains. Sorrow's sign is a flame that sears, igniting the heart with burning tears, as streams of grief unbidden trace their ceaseless paths down a weary face. For when a soul, by love ensnared, guards its secret, yet is bared, through tears the hidden truth takes flight, exposed to day's unyielding light. When tearful rivers brim and spill, from eyelids unable to conceal, know, if thy gaze be sharp and true, love's aching malady rends that heart in two. In the realm of love it oft transpires that lovers harbour dark suspicions of one another, misinterpreting every word with wilful misunderstanding. Thus arise the bitter reproaches that lovers cast upon each other. I know of a man ordinarily the most trusting of souls, broad in mind, patient beyond measure, and indulgent to a fault. Yet when touched by love, he cannot bear the slightest discord with his beloved. At the merest hint of difference, he unleashes a torrent of accusations and mistrust. This state I have captured in verse. My mind, shadowed by suspicion's veil, finds fault in all thou dost, however frail. Despicable are they who scorn love's strife, blind to the sparks that threaten life. They heed not, till the hour grows late, the seeds of discord and bitter hate, forgetting to their own dismay, a single spark may a city lay. Great matters from humble origins rise, as the date-tree, vast, to heaven ascends, from a mere stone beneath the skies, its towering might begins. You shall behold the lover uncertain of his beloved's steadfastness, ever vigilant in ways he once disregarded. He refines his speech, perfects his gestures, and tempers his glances, especially if fate has bound him to one prone to unjust accusations or a quarrelsome nature. Another mark of love is the lover's unwavering attention to the beloved, treasuring every word that falls from their lips, seeking every tidbit of news, ensuring no detail, trivial or grand, escapes notice. In truth, so closely does he trace their every step that sometimes a dullard under love's spell turns sharp as a blade, and a heedless soul becomes remarkably astute. I recall a day in Almeria, seated among a gathering in the shop of Ismail ibn Yunus, a Hebrew physician of keen insight and profound physiognomy. Mujahid ibn al-Hasin al-Qaisi pointed to a man named Hatim, known familiarly as Abu Labaga, who sat apart from us and asked, "What sayest thou of this man?" Ismail gazed at him briefly, then declared, "He is passionately in love." Mujahid, astonished, exclaimed, "Thou art correct. What led thee to this?" Ismail replied, by the profound confusion etched upon his face, "That alone, for otherwise his demeanour betrays naught. I discern from this that love, not madness, consumes him." Of falling in love while asleep, every tale of love must trace its genesis to some cause, however improbable. I shall commence with the most extraordinary of origins, proceeding in due order from the simplest to the most intricate. Love indeed may spring from sources so strange that had I not witnessed them myself, I would scarce venture to recount them. Consider an episode from my own life. One day I visited our friend Abu Ansari Amr ibn Ziyad, freedman of Al-Muayyad, and found him lost in thought, burdened by some unseen weight. I pressed him to reveal his trouble. For a time he demurred, but at last confessed, "A marvel beyond all I have known has befallen me." "What might that be?" I inquired. He replied, "Last night, in a dream, I beheld a young maiden, and upon waking I found my heart utterly lost to her, consumed by a mad passion. I am now in the direst of straits, ensnared by this love I bear for her." For over a month he languished in despair. untouched by any solace, so profound was his affliction. At length I rebuked him, saying, "It is a grave error to bind thy soul to an illusion, to tether thy fancy to a being that exists not. Knowest thou who she is?" "Nay, by God," he answered. "Truly," I continued, "thy judgment falters, and thy discernment wanes, if thou art enamoured of one thou hast never seen, a figment uncreated, absent from this world. Hadst thou fallen for a painted image on the walls of a bath-house, I might more readily pardon thee." I persisted in my counsel until, with great effort, he cast aside his torment. I deem his plight a mere fantasy of the mind, a delusion born of nightmare, akin to wishful reverie and mental illusion. This I have woven into verse. Ah, would I knew who she might be, and how she wandered through the night. Was she the moon that gleamed on me, or the sun's ascending light? A mere fancy by thought conceived, a notion mind's conjecture wove, an image my soul itself believed. Through reverie's design I strove. A portrait my spirit dared to paint, to make my hopes in flesh appear, a vision my sight did feign and taint, to render real what was not here. Or was she naught of all I deem, but a cruel jest of fate's decree, a phantom born to wound my dream, with murderous intent for me? Of falling in love through a description. Among the most curious origins of passion is when a soul is captivated merely by the recounting of another's virtues, without ever beholding the beloved. In such a state one traverses all the familiar stages of love, the exchange of messengers, the penning of ardent missives, the restless yearning, the profound emotion, the sleepless vigils, all without a glimpse of the object of desire. Tales of beauty, descriptions of noble traits, and tidings of the fair one wield a potent influence on the heart. Even the melody of a maiden's song, heard from behind a wall, may kindle love and preoccupy the mind. This phenomenon has touched more than a few, yet, in my estimation, such love is a fragile edifice, lacking a foundation. When a man's thoughts are consumed by fervour for one he has never seen, he inevitably conjures an imagined likeness in solitude, a phantom that haunts his reverie. No other form takes shape in his mind. He is wholly ensnared by this illusion, dreaming only of her. Then, should he one day encounter the subject of his fancy, his love may either be affirmed or utterly dissolved. Both outcomes have been known to transpire. Such romances oft unfold between veiled ladies of sequestered palaces and noble houses and their male kin. In these instances the love of women proves more enduring than that of men, for women in their delicate nature are swiftly swayed by such allure, which readily overmasters them. This form of love I have depicted in verse, a melody of longing for the unseen, a testament to the heart's quiet surrender to whispers of beauty untold. O thou who dost reproach me for the enchantment that hath seized my heart, enthralled by a passion for one mine eyes have never beheld, thou dost weave thy words with exaggeration, claiming my love to be frail and feeble in its essence. But ponder this, what know men of the celestial paradise above, save through tales heard, and through hearing their hearts are kindled with love. I have also woven verses on the theme of marvelling at the allure of a voice, a melody of song, though the singer remains unseen to mine eyes. Love's vanguard stormed mine ears with sweet assault, and now they hold my heart in gentle siege. Their victory shines forth in mine eyes, surrender. In the verses that follow I paint the moment when truth unveils the fallacy of conjecture, as the lover beholds the beloved with his own gaze. They spoke of thee in radiant hues, yet when mine eyes at last beheld thy form, I knew their words were but empty echoes, devoid of truth. Consider the drum. Naught but a hollow skin in its origin, yet when the drummer strikes its surface it stirs terror in a man's soul, trembling with fear. I have also mused on the converse of this state. So too, the tales men weave of paradise's supreme delight fall far short of the true bliss that therein resides. Such dynamics unfold not only in love, but also in the bonds of friendship and camaraderie, as I shall recount from my own life's tapestry. There was once a deep affection between myself and a noble soul. We exchanged letters oft, yet our eyes had never met. Then, by God's grace, we came face to face. But scarce had a few days passed when a fierce aversion took root, a profound antipathy that persists unbroken to this very day. This I have captured in verse, a fragment of which I share. Thou didst turn my dream of love to bitter scorn, to hatred fierce and unrelenting, as copyists oft err, altering a manuscript's sacred form. The opposite unfolded in my bond with Abu Amin ibn Abi Amin. May God enfold him in mercy. Once I harboured a deep loathing for him, mirrored by his own disdain, before our paths had crossed in sight. The root of this discord lay in slander, whispered tales borne to each of us about the other, compounded by an enmity between our fathers, fuelled by their rivalry for favour and advancement at the court. Then, by God's decree, we met. Thereafter he became my dearest companion, and I his, until death's inevitable hand parted us. I commemorated this friendship in verse. He was a brother, gained through meetings grace, a noble treasure I scarce sought to claim. His company I thought would bring no joy. Yet he, once foe, became my heart's sweet flame. I, who once fled from his nearness, thereafter yearned to hold him ever close. As for Abu Shakir Abd al-Rahman ibn Muhammad al-Kabri, he was my friend long before our eyes met. When at last we did, our love was sealed, and it endures unwavering to this present hour of falling in love at first sight. Oft it comes to pass that love binds itself to the heart with but a single glance. This form of love divides itself into two distinct paths. The first path stands in contrast to what I have afore described, wherein a man plunges headlong into love for a mere visage, ignorant of who she may be, her name or her abode. This has befallen more than one soul. My companion, Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Ahmad ibn Ishaq, relayed to me, citing a trusted source whose name escapes me, though I believe it was Judge ibn al-Hadda, that the poet Yusuf ibn Harun, known as Al-Ramadi, once passed by the gate of the perfumers in Cordova, a place oft graced by ladies' presence. There he glimpsed a young maiden who, in his own words, wholly captured my heart, so that love permeated every fibre of my being. He turned from his path to the mosque, choosing instead to follow her as she made her way toward the bridge, crossing it to reach the quarter known as Al-Rabad. When she arrived at the mausolea of the Banu Marwan, may God's mercy rest upon their souls, erected over their graves in the cemetery beyond the river, she noticed him straying from the crowd, his gaze fixed solely upon her. Approaching him, she inquired, "Why dost thou trail behind me?" He confessed the depth of his affliction for her, to which she replied, "Cease this pursuit. Seek not to bring me shame. Thou hast no hope of attaining thy aim, nor any path to fulfil thy desire." He countered, "I am content merely to gaze upon thee." "That is permitted to thee," she allowed. Then he asked, "My lady, art thou free or a slave?" "I am a slave," she answered. "And thy name?" he pressed. "Kalwa," she revealed. "And to whom dost thou belong?" he ventured next. "By God," she retorted, "thou art likelier to know the dwellers of the seventh heaven than to uncover that truth. Seek not what is beyond thy reach." "My lady," he pleaded, "where might I behold thee again?" "Where thou sawest me today," she replied, "at this same hour every Friday." Then she added, "Wilt thou depart now, or shall I?" "Go thou, under God's protection," he answered. She turned toward the bridge, and he could not follow, for she glanced back off to see if he pursued. When she passed the bridge's gate, he hastened after her, but found no trace of her presence. "By God," swore Abu Umar, that is, Yusuf ibn Harun, recounting his tale, "I have haunted the perfumer's gate and Al-Rabad from that day to this, yet never have I gleaned tidings of her. I know not if the heavens have claimed her, or the earth swallowed her whole, and the fire in my heart for her burns hotter than glowing embers." This is the Kalwa, whom he immortalizes in his love lyrics. Later he journeyed to Saragossa for her sake, and received news of her, but that is a tale of greater length. Such occurrences are not rare. I have penned a poem on this theme, from which I now draw a fragment. "Mine eye conspired against my heart, wrought grievous wrong and bitter smart. My spirit in vengeance for this sin loosed tears to drown mine eyes within. How shall mine eye witness the justice my tears demand in righteous flood, when in their deluge deep and vast mine eye itself is wholly lost? Since never before had I seen her, I knew her not when first we met. All I knew of her in that moment was the vision of that initial glance." The second path of this form of love contrasts with what I shall describe in the chapter to follow, if God so wills. This is when a man forms an attachment at first sight, with a lady whose name, dwelling and lineage are known to him. The distinction lies in the swiftness or slowness with which the affair unfolds. When love ignites at first glance, born of a fleeting look, it betrays a lack of steadfastness in the lover. Proclaiming that he shall as quickly forget his fleeting romance, it speaks of fickleness and inconstancy in his nature. So it is with all things, what grows swiftly, swiftly withers, while that which is slow to form endures through time. A young man I know, the son of a clerk, was once beheld by a lady of noble lineage, high station, and strict seclusion. Peering from a vantage in her abode, she saw him pass by, and an attachment bloomed within her, which he mirrored in return. They exchanged letters for a time, by means more subtle than the edge of a finely honed blade. Were it not my intent in this treatise to veil such stratagems and refrain from unveiling such ruses, I could recount marvels that would confound the shrewd and astonish the most discerning of minds. I pray that God, in his boundless mercy, draws over us and all true believers the curtain of his grace. Verily, he is sufficient for our every need. Of falling in love after long association, there are souls whose love attains its truest depth only after prolonged discourse, deep reflection, and enduring familiarity. Such a one is likely to remain constant in affection, unshaken by the passage of time, for what enters with struggle departs not easily. This is my own path in matters of the heart, and it finds resonance in the sacred traditions. For we are taught that when God commanded the Spirit to enter the body of Adam, akin to an earthen vessel, the Spirit, trembling with fear and distress, was bid, "Enter unwillingly and emerge unwillingly." I have known a man of this disposition who, whenever he sensed the stirrings of passion within, or felt an inclination toward a form whose beauty captivated him, would at once employ the tactic of avoidance, severing all ties with that person, lest his emotions intensify and the matter slip beyond his mastery, leaving him wholly overwhelmed. This reveals how tenaciously love clings to such hearts, and once it takes hold it relinquishes not its grasp. I have composed a poem on this theme, from which I offer an excerpt. I am resolved to stand aloof wherever love's allure doth beckon. The wise man, as I have discerned, is ever prudent and discerning. I have seen that love takes root when some poor soul, ensnared by sin, thinks it a thrill beyond compare to gaze on cheeks where roses bloom fair. Yet while he revels in carefree delight, unmarred by any shadow of plight, the chains are forged, link by link, till he is bound before he can think. Thus stands the deluded fool, stepping lightly into the pool. He slips, and ere he can turn around, is swept by the flood and wholly drowned. I stand in profound wonder at those who claim to fall in love at first sight. I struggle to lend credence to their assertions, inclining instead to deem such love mere lust. As for the notion that such fleeting attachment can truly seize the innermost heart, or pierce the veiled recesses of the soul, that I cannot under any guise accept. Love has never gripped my core, save after the long passage of time and ceaseless companionship with the beloved, sharing in every endeavour, grave or light. Thus am I in both solace and ardour. Never in my life have I forgotten a romance, and my yearning for every past bond is such that I near choke when I drink, and suffocate when I partake of sustenance. He who is not so formed finds swift relief and returns to ease. I, however, have never grown weary of aught I have known, nor hastened to embrace it at first meeting. Likewise I have never craved change for its own sake in any possession, be it friends, comrades, or the mundane, garments, mounts, or fare. Life holds no joy for me. I hang my head, utterly cast down, since I first tasted the bitter pang of separation from those I cherish. It is a torment that ever returns, a grief unceasing in its assault. My memory of past joys dims every future delight I might hope to grasp. I am as one dead, though counted among the living, slain by sorrow, entombed by sadness, buried while yet I tread this mortal earth. Praise be to God, whatever trials befall us. Verily, there is no God but He. I have contemplated this theme in verse thus. True love is no fleeting bloom that springs to life in a fleeting hour. Its flint strikes not at mere whim, nor kindles at casual desire. Love is a rare infant, slow to form, begotten with patient care. Its lime must blend through time ere its foundation stands firm, and once established it yields not soon, nor is easily undermined. Its structure endures steadfast, its fabric ever expanding. This truth shines clear, for we behold that what grows too swiftly is as swiftly overthrown. My heart is a stubborn soil, arduous to till with labour and toil, unyielding to the tiller's hand, resistant to the seed's command. Yet once the roots take hold, and thrive within its depths, come abundant rain or searing drought, the vigorous stem shall sprout. Let no man deem or imagine that what I here express contradicts my earlier assertion, set forth in the preface of this discourse, that love is a union of souls wrought in the ethereal realm. Nay, my present words affirm that very truth. For we know that in this terrestrial sphere the soul is cloaked in manifold veils, beset by myriad accidents, encompassed by earthly mundane urges. Thus many of its true qualities lie obscured. Though these barriers do not wholly bar the soul from uniting with its kindred spirit, they surely impede that union which can only be truly realized after prolonged and careful preparation. The soul must first discern its points of harmony and affinity with its counterpart. It must align its hidden temperaments with those of the beloved. Only then shall true union be fulfilled, unhindered by further obstacle or delay. As for what transpires at first glance, born of fleeting circumstances, mere physical admiration, visual enchantment confined to external forms, this is the very essence of carnal desire. When such desire overflows its bounds and merges with a spiritual union, where natural instincts and the soul share equal sway, the resulting state is termed passionate love. Herein lies the root of error, which misleads a man to claim love for two, or ardent passion for two distinct souls. All this stems from carnal desire, as I have described. It is termed love only in metaphor, not in its truest sense. For the true lover, the soul's yearning is so overwhelming that it diverts him from all religious and worldly pursuits. How then could he find space to entertain a second affair of the heart? In the realm of the heart and the spirit, I weave my thoughts into the delicate tapestry of verse, seeking to illuminate the intricacies of love and faith with the elegance of a bygone era, inspired by the profound reflections of a soul attuned to the divine. He utters falsehoods, cloaking truth in deception, swearing devotion to two, while his heart betrays both. Such a man walks in equal deceit with the accursed Manichae, whose duplicity stains the purity of belief. The heart, a singular sanctuary, cannot cradle two beloveds within its tender embrace. It lacks the expanse to harbour dual affections, nor can a second love rival the first in its sacred claim. For just as reason stands alone, unparalleled, it cannot fathom another power to create beyond the all-compassionate, the one who reigns supreme. Likewise, the heart, in its unity, is fashioned to cherish but a single beloved, whether near or far, a lone star in its boundless sky. Thus, he who professes love for two stands as a dubious adherent to the laws of affection, a betrayer of the sacred tenets of faith. By this same measure, true belief is a solitary flame. To serve another alongside it is to cast oneself into the shadow of infidelity. I recall a youth of noble lineage, blessed with wealth and the finest learning, who oft sought the companionship of slave girls. At first they gazed upon him with indifference, even aversion, for his countenance bore a perpetual frown, especially in the presence of women. Yet, in a fleeting span, he would bend their will to his own. What was once disdain transformed into fervent love, boundless affection, and unashamed adoration. Where once they recoiled from his company, soon they could not bear his absence. This marvel repeated with many a maiden. A companion of mine, curious of his art, inquired into his secret. In a detailed confession, the youth attributed his mastery to an extraordinary finesse in the ways of love. This tale, among others I could recount, reveals a profound truth. When a spiritual harmony is forged, love blooms instantaneous. Physical union completes the sacred circuit, allowing the current of affection to flow unimpeded into the depths of the soul. Of falling in love with a quality and thereafter not approving any other different, know, O seeker of truth, may the divine elevate your spirit, that love wields a sovereign authority over the soul, its decrees irrevocable, its mandates unassailable, its dominion absolute. It demands unwavering fealty, and against its reign there is no recourse. Love unravels the tightest knots, loosens the firmest bonds, melts the most unyielding barriers, and pierces the innermost chambers of the heart, rendering lawful that which was once forbidden. I have known men of discerning intellect, unblemished by ignorance, refined in taste and perception, who spoke of their beloveds as adorned with qualities scarce admired by the multitude, nor sanctioned by the common standards of beauty. Yet these very traits became their obsession, the sole focus of their ardour, the pinnacle of elegance in their eyes. Even when their beloveds faded, whether through oblivion, separation, betrayal, or the caprices to which love is ever prone, these men clung to their peculiar admiration. They never ceased to exalt those singular attributes above all others, even those deemed superior by the world. No other qualities stirred their hearts. Indeed, the very features most lauded by others were to them objects of scorn. Thus they lived, sighing for the lost companions of their youth, finding solace only in the memory of past joys. I deem this no affectation, but rather a true reflection of their innate disposition, a choice made not in jest, but in the depths of their being, where no other preference could take root. I have known a man whose beloved bore a neck somewhat short, and thereafter he found no beauty in the long and slender necks of others, be they man or maiden. Another, whose first love was a petite damsel, could never find his heart stirred by a woman of lofty stature. A third was enraptured by a girl with a wide mouth, and henceforth deemed small mouths repugnant, reviling them with genuine disdain. These men were not lacking in wisdom or culture. Rather, they possessed keen insight and a depth of understanding worthy of acclaim. Permit me to unveil a fragment of my own journey. In the bloom of youth, I cherished a slave girl of golden locks, and since that tender age, I have found no allure in the dark tresses of brunettes, not even when their raven hair frames a visage radiant as the sun, the very embodiment of beauty. This preference has woven itself into the fabric of my soul, an inseparable part of my being. My heart recoils from any other inclination. So too was it with my father, may the divine be pleased with him, who remained steadfast in his first love until the end of his earthly sojourn. All the caliphs of the Banu Marwan, may the divine shower mercy upon their souls, and particularly the progeny of Al-Nasir, were without exception inclined by nature to favour fair-haired beloveds. I have beheld them with mine own eyes, and others have recounted the same of their forebears, from the era of Al-Nasir to our present day. They were almost invariably fair of hair, inheriting this trait from their mothers, a lineage of golden locks. Only Sulaiman al-Zafir, may the divine have mercy upon him, stands apart in my memory, with his dark ringlets and sable beard. As for Al-Nasir and Al-Hakam al-Mustansir, may the divine be pleased with them, my late father, the vizier, along with others, attested to their blonde hair and azure eyes. The same held true for Hisham al-Muayyad, Muhammad al-Mahdi, and Abd al-Rahman al-Murtada. May the divine show them mercy. I saw them myself on numerous occasions, honoured to be in their presence, and noted their fair hair and blue eyes. Their sons, brothers and kin bore these same marks. Whether this arose from an innate disposition or a family tradition passed down through generations, I cannot say. Yet it shines forth in the verses of Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan ibn Abd al-Rahman ibn Marwan, descendant of the Caliph al-Nasir, known as al-Talik, the preeminent poet of Andalusia in his time. In his love odes, he oft sang of blondes. I have seen him with mine own eyes and shared in his company. It is not so strange that a man enamoured of a less comely maiden should carry that peculiar affection through the tapestry of his life. Such quirks are ever the companions of love, nor is it astonishing that one might favour the lesser if such a preference is woven into the essence of his nature. But what truly astounds is when a man, long accustomed to perceiving with the clarity of truth, is suddenly ensnared by a fleeting passion after years amidst society. This caprice so transforms him that it becomes a second nature wholly displacing the first. Though he may recognize the superiority of his former state, when reason returns, his soul recoils from all but the baser sort. Marvel then at the mighty sway, the splendid tyranny of human passion. Such a man is a true and ardent lover, unlike he who mimics the ways of strangers, feigning a character not his own. The latter boasts of choosing whom he will love. But if love had truly seized his discernment, uprooted his reason, and swept away his natural discretion, it would so dominate his soul that choice would no longer be his to claim. I have penned verses on this theme, delicate whispers of the heart's caprice. I know a youth whose heart was bound to a lass whose neck was stout and round. Now when long-necked maidens glide, he deems them gin with doubt beside. He crafts to shield his curious taste a logic firm, not lightly displaced. He argues thus, with earnest plea, a truth in substance, plain to see. The wild cow, famed in song and lore, is beauty's emblem evermore. No man denies her charm divine, yet never was her neck a line. And camels, scorned by every eye, for necks that stretch toward the sky, are they not proof in nature's plan that short is fair in love's vast span? Another lad I've known, whose flame burned for a wide-mouthed, uncommon dame. Her loveliness, he'd oft proclaim, mirrors the gazelle whose mouth's the same. And yet a third, whose heart was won by a beloved small, a dainty one. Tall women, he'd scoff, are devils spun, stuck up each and every one. Another of my poems I offer here, a reflection of my soul's own hue. They chide the girl for whom I pine, because her lovely locks do shine. But that, I cry, is beauty's sign, the very charm that makes her mine. They fault the gleam of golden light, the shimmer pure, the radiance bright. How mad they are, how blind, how wrong, to scorn what stirs my heart so strong. Is there just cause, think you, to blame the tender Narcissus' gentle flame? Or does the stars' far twinkle seem a hateful sight, a broken dream? Of all God's creatures, I confess, the man of wisdom errs the less. Yet he who loves a coal-black frame bears in his soul a darkened shame. Black is the hue, as scriptures say, of hell's own dwellers lost astray. Black is the robe of grief and woe of mothers mourning sons below. And since from Khorasan did sweep the black Abbasid banners deep, men's souls have known to bitter cost the righteous cause so sadly lost. Of illusion by words, whatever the heart seeks, it must devise a path, a subtle stratagem to approach its desire. Only one exists who creates without intermediary, the prime omniscient, may he be exalted and extolled in eternal glory. The first artifice of lovers, yearning for union, is to unveil their sentiments through the veiled language of words. They may recite a verse of poetry, dispatch an allegory, weave a riddle, pose an enigma, or employ lofty expressions. Their methods vary with the sharpness of their insight and the measure of aversion or warmth, wit or dullness they perceive in their beloved. I recall a man who initiated his confession of love by reciting verses of my own crafting. Such are the delicate manoeuvres in the nascent stages of love's pursuit. Should the lover discern a flicker of sympathy or encouragement, he ventures further. As he observes the traits I have described, whether in the act of quoting verses or hinting at hidden meanings, he awaits a response, be it spoken, a grimace or a gesture. In that fleeting moment, he stands poised between hope and despair. Though brief, it reveals whether his aspiration shall soar or crumble. There exists another form of verbal illusion, employed only when harmony is achieved and the lover knows his feelings are returned. Then begin the murmurs of complaint, the secret assignations, the tender reproaches, the vows of eternal fidelity. All this unfolds through veiled words, which to the uninitiated seem to bear a meaning far from the lover's intent. The outsider responds with thoughts shaped by mere surface impressions, while the lovers comprehend each other's true purpose, replying in a cipher known only to them, unless the listener possesses a piercing sensibility, honed by wit and long experience. If such an observer grasps the undercurrent of their exchange, no nuance of their hidden intent escapes his gaze. I know of a youth and a maiden, bound by deep affection. During one of their encounters, the youth ventured a suggestion slightly improper. The maiden, indignant, exclaimed, "By God, I shall proclaim my grievance publicly and shame you in private." Days later, amidst a gathering of great princes, eminent statesmen, and a host of women and wary servants, the youth was present, serving in the retinue of the master of ceremonies. Other singing girls accompanied her. When her turn came to perform, she tuned her lute and sang an ancient melody, her voice a vessel of veiled intent. Sweet fawn, fair as the moon's full glow, or sun through darkened clouds aglow, with languid glance my heart did sway. With lithe form like a tree at play, I yielded to his gentle plea, humbled myself his will to be. As lovesick suitor I obey, my darling's wish come what may. Let me thy ransom ever stand, embrace me with a lawful hand. I'd not surrender my sweet charms to arms that stray from virtue's harms. I too have known such moments and captured them in verse. Harsh words of blame so sharp, so cold, false plaints from one both judge and bold. She stood most cruel to wound my name, her hidden spite my heart to blame. She voiced her charge for all to hear, yet none knew her intent so clear, save him, the target of her art, whose soul bore deep her hidden dart, of hinting with the eyes. Following the art of verbal allusion, once the lover's advance is welcomed and a bond forged, the next step unveils itself in the silent language of the eyes. Glances bear an honoured role in this dance, achieving wonders beyond words. Through a glance, the lover may be dismissed or beckoned, promised or warned, reproached or uplifted, commanded or forbidden. A glance can strike the unworthy, alert to lurking spies, convey laughter or sorrow, pose a query or offer reply, refuse or yield. Each emotion, each intent, finds its unique expression in the eye, a language fully grasped only through witnessing its play. I shall endeavour to sketch but the simplest of these silent signs, for their full depth eludes mere description. A signal from the corner of the eye forbids the lover a certain act. A drooping gaze signifies consent. A lingering look betrays suffering and woe. A broken gaze heralds relief. A hint of closing eyes issues a threat. To turn the pupil in a direction, then swiftly back, draws attention to someone present. A covert signal with the corners of both eyes poses a question. A rapid shift of the pupil from centre to inner angle denotes refusal. A fluttering of both pupils in varied motions signals a general prohibition. The myriad other signs can only be understood through direct observation, their subtlety defying the bounds of written word. Thus, in the silent eloquence of glances, in the veiled whispers of words, and in the singular devotion of the heart, love weaves its eternal mystery, a reflection of the divine unity that binds all creation in its sacred embrace. In the realm of human experience, the eye emerges as a herald of profound significance, a silent messenger through which the deepest yearnings of the beloved are perceived. It stands as a conduit, a portal through which the heart's secrets are unveiled, surpassing the other senses in its eloquence and potency. Indeed, the eye is the soul's vanguard, its most faithful guide, a polished mirror reflecting the vast expanse of truths, virtues and tangible wonders. As the ancients have oft declared, to hear of a matter pales in comparison to beholding it with one's own gaze, a wisdom echoed by Polyron, the sage of physiognomy, who deemed the eye the truest foundation for discernment. Consider, if you will, the eye's remarkable faculty of perception. When its rays meet a surface of clarity, be it gleaming steel, pristine glass, shimmering water, or a radiant gem, and are bounded by the dull opacity of coarser matter, those rays return to the beholder, granting a vision of oneself. Thus, in the act of gazing into a mirror, one seems to peer through the eyes of another, encountering one's own essence in reflection. A demonstration of this marvel may be crafted with elegance. Take two grand mirrors, one held in the right hand behind the head, the other in the left before the face. Tilt them subtly until their gazes meet, and behold, your neck and the hidden vistas of your form are revealed. This is the dance of the eye's radiant essence, rebounding against the mirror's silent echo, finding no passage through the barriers before or behind, and thus returning to the self it confronts. Though Salih, disciple of Abu Ishaq al-Nazam, ventured a differing view on the nature of sight, his musings find no resonance, dismissed as mere folly by the discerning. Even if the eye held no inherent superiority, its essence remains the most exalted among substances. It is imbued with the quality of light, through which the spectrum of colours is unveiled, and no other faculty matches its boundless reach. By the eye, the celestial bodies in their distant orbits are beheld, and the heavens, in their lofty grandeur, are brought near. This is because the eye shares a kinship with the mirror of which we speak, reaching out to distant wonders in a single effortless leap, unburdened by the need to traverse space in measured steps or pause at fleeting stations. Such immediacy is alien to the other senses. Taste and touch know only what is near, while hearing and smell grasp only what lies close at hand. As evidence of the eye's swift perception, observe how one sees an object before its sound reaches the ear, despite all efforts to synchronize sight and sound. Were the eye and ear equal in their grasp, the former would not outpace the latter. Of correspondence. Now, as the bonds of affection weave lovers into a tender intermingling, the art of correspondence takes its place as a sacred rite. Letters, in their silent eloquence, weave narratives of the heart. I have witnessed souls enamoured of this craft, who hasten to shred their missives, dissolve them in water, and erase their traces. For many a scandal has arisen from an errant parchment, as I have mused in verse. It pains my soul to rend thy letter, dear, this mournful day. Yet I swear no force can sever the love that holds its sway. I'd rather see this ink erased, and our bond remain pure and true, for the branch will ever sprout anew if the trunk endures in view. Too oft a letter penned in haste has brought its scribe to ruin's gate, unknowing as his hand did trace the fateful end of such a state. A letter must be fashioned with the utmost grace, adorned with beauty as delicate as the heart's whisper. For by my life it becomes the lover's tongue when speech falters, when bashfulness or awe silences the voice. The mere act of delivering such a missive to the beloved, knowing it rests in their hands, kindles in the lover a joy profound, a solace akin to beholding the cherished one. And when the reply arrives, to gaze upon it is a delight rivaling the sweetest of reunions. Thus you shall see the ardent soul pressing the letter to their eyes or heart, caressing and kissing it as if it were the beloved themselves. I knew a man of eloquent tongue, sharp insight, and subtle understanding, who, though near his beloved and free to meet her often, clung to the art of letters, finding in them manifold pleasures. Yet I have also heard of a vile soul who defiled his beloved's letters with base and abhorrent acts, a shameful perversion of passion. As for mingling tears with the ink of love letters, I knew a man who did so oft, and his beloved in turn moistened her replies with her own essence. Of this tender exchange I have penned verses. I wrote to my beloved a tender plea. She answered with words that soothed my sea, calming my heart, then stirring it anew. A tempest of love in each line I view. Each word I traced with tears that fell, as lovers do with truths to tell. No treachery in my heart did dwell, only love in its boundless spell. Yet tears flowed on, a relentless stream, washing away my careful dream. O cruel waters, to erase with spite the tender thoughts I strove to write. Where first I penned, the script stands clear, but at the close, drowned in tearful fear, the lines are lost in sorrow's rain, my heart's intent washed away in pain. I once beheld a letter writ by a lover's hand, stained not with ink but with blood from a self-inflicted wound, each word a crimson cry. When the blood had dried, I could have sworn it was penned in resin's hue. Of the messenger. In the unfolding drama of love, as trust and harmony deepen, the figure of the messenger emerges, a pivotal soul to be chosen with utmost care. He must be virtuous and diligent, a reflection of the lover's wisdom, for in his hands, under the divine decree, rest the lover's life and honour, his glory and shame. The messenger must possess a comely presence, a keen mind, the ability to grasp unspoken hints, and the foresight to mend oversights with his own insight. He must relay all he witnesses with unerring truth, guard secrets with unwavering fidelity, and bear a cheerful, loyal spirit as a true well-wisher. Should he lack these virtues, the harm he inflicts upon the lover will mirror his own deficiencies. Of this I have woven verses. The messenger is a blade in thy right hand's grip. Choose thy sword with care, to thy purpose fit, and once selected polish it with tender art, ere thou dost strike at thy beloved's heart. He who trusts a dull and blunted edge is but a fool, ensnared by folly's pledge. The price of such a choice is steep and dire, for trusting tools unworthy of desire. Lovers oft select as messengers those who evade notice, a humble youth, unkempt and unremarkable, or those cloaked in respectability, immune to suspicion by virtue of piety or age. Women, too, are oft employed, especially those bent with age, leaning on staffs, clutching rosaries, and draped in crimson cloaks. I recall how in Cordova young women were warned of such guises wherever they appeared. Women of trade or craft, whose vocations grant them easy access, be they healers, bloodletters, peddlers, brokers, hairdressers, mourners, singers, soothsayers, teachers, errand-runners, spinners, or weavers, are favoured by lovers. So too are those close kin to the beloved, whose entry is never questioned. How many a seemingly unreachable maiden has been drawn near through such intermediaries? How oft have towering obstacles melted away, the distant made near, the unyielding made pliant? How many veils, curtains, guarded chambers, and fortified doors have been breached by such hands? Were it not for my wish to illuminate these subtleties, I would have held my tongue, yet I speak so that eyes may be opened and trust not so easily bestowed. Blessed is he who learns from another's tale, even if that other be a foe. I beseech the Almighty to enfold us and all the faithful in the mantle of his protection, and never let the shadow of his safeguarding wane from any among us. I have known lovers who entrusted their missives to a dove, well trained, bearing letters on its wing. Of this I have composed lines. Old Noah chose a dove as his herald true, a faithful bearer, and he was not rue, for she returned with tidings sweet and bright, a balm of hope in the darkest night. So I entrust to this dove my heart's plea, my messages of love to carry to thee. I send her forth on wings both swift and sure, to bear my words in safety pure, of concealing the secret. Among love's many facets is the art of silence. The lover, when pressed, denies all, cloaking himself in stoicism, feigning a life of restraint and solitude. Yet the subtle truth seeps forth. The inferno of passion within his breast betrays itself in fleeting gestures, in the language of his gaze. It emerges, slow yet certain, as fire amidst coals or water through parched earth. In love's nascent bloom one may deceive the less discerning, but once its roots deepen, concealment becomes an impossible dream. At times this reticence stems from a desire to evade the stigma of love among peers, deeming it a mark of levity and thus proclaiming a flight from its embrace. Yet this stance is misguided. It suffices for the faithful to shun only what the divine has forbidden, knowing such deeds will be reckoned on the day of reckoning. To cherish beauty, to be ensnared by love, these are innate inclinations beyond the realm of divine edict or prohibition. All hearts rest in the hands of the Creator, shaped by his will, and their duty is but to discern right from wrong and hold fast to truth. Love is a disposition woven into our being. Man governs only those actions born of conscious intent. Of this I have penned verses. Those ignorant of love's sweet pain, for thy sake heap on me disdain. Let them chide or hold their peace. Their words bring neither pain nor ease. Shame on thee. Their voices cry, to cast all modesty awry, while men regard thee with reverent awe as a fervent keeper of the law. What you claim, I counter bold, is hypocrisy plain and cold, and if I may with pride I say, hypocrisy I most dismay. Was love ever deemed a sin? Did Mohammed thus begin, or Holy Writ its path deny, forbidding hearts to yearn and sigh? Since I've done naught but what is right, as faith commands in clearest light, no dread shall cloud my soul with gloom on that fearsome day of doom. Little I heed their scornful blame, who call my love a mark of shame. Let them whisper, let them roar, their slander I shall bear and more. Shall man be judged, do you suppose, save for deeds he freely chose, or bear the weight of words untold that never from his lips did roll? I knew a man ensnared by such a trial, passion nesting deep within him, yet he strove to deny it. In time his affliction grew so evident that all perceived it in his demeanour, whether he had known it or not. Yet when any dared hint at his plight, he rebuked them fiercely, driving them away. Thus, if a companion wished to curry his favour, they feigned belief in his denials, branding as liars those who thought otherwise, much to his delight. I recall encountering him once, seated with another who subtly probed his hidden feelings, only for him to reject every insinuation. At that very moment the object of his unspoken longing passed by. His gaze fell upon them, and all composure fled. His former calm shattered, his colour drained, and his polished words stumbled into disarray. His companions ceased the debate, inviting a return to earlier discourse. Someone remarked, "Actions speak truer than words." To which he replied, "Think as you will, pardon or blame me, it matters not." Of this I have woven lines. He lingers on by death's kind grace, who pities the torments of his case, the anguished throes of love's fierce flame, that sear his soul in passion's name. And another verse on this theme, tears of longing stream and stream, again and again a ceaseless theme. The veil of love I know full well is torn asunder where passions dwell. My heart, as she glides before my sight, flutters still in trembling flight, like a partridge poor and frail, caught within the hunter's gale. O comrades true, come near, advise, as friends do with counsel wise, how long must I this secret bind, which I can neither hide nor find? Yet this struggle arises only when the urge to conceal battles the lover's innate nature, leaving him torn between twin fires, lost in bewilderment. Sometimes concealment is born of loyalty, a desire to shield the beloved, a mark of noble character. Of this I have mused in verse. All who know me see my plight, a lovelorn youth, in endless night, cast down, weary, burdened with care, for whom none can this truth declare. When they meet me face to face, they sense the truth of my sad case, yet when they seek to name the cause, they grasp at shadows bound by flaws. My love is like a script, so clear, its letters plain, yet none draw near, for when they strive to read its tale, its meaning hides beyond the pale. Or like a dove's soft coo in glade, my love within the thicket's shade sings with art so sweet, so fine, yet its sense remains divine. We listen rapt with eager ear to melodies so pure, so dear, but though the tune enchants the soul, its hidden truth evades control. For God's sake, they implore of me, name her, that we may clearly see. What deep passion steals thy rest? For whom dost thou bear this heavy test? Nay, ill not yield nor name reveal the secret they so keenly feel. I'd sooner lose my mind to woe than let this tender mystery show. Thus they waver, tossed by doubt, conjecture wild within without, uncertain if what they think they know is truth or mere illusion's glow. And another tender verse on guarding the secret. There lies a haven where I conceal my secret, safe from fate's cruel wheel. If man may shelter there, defy he can death's grasp and say, "Catch me if you can." I slay my secret, ask you why? For secrets live only when they die, as the love-sick youth in grief's embrace finds in his pain his truest grace. At times discretion shields the lover from the peril of disclosure, especially when the beloved holds lofty rank. A poet of Cordova once sang of Subba, mother of Al-Muayyad, may God's mercy be upon him. When a slave girl sang this verse before Al-Mansur Muhammad ibn Abi Amin, intending to charm him, he ordered her execution. So too was Ahmad ibn Mughith slain, his clan uprooted, and a decree issued barring their kin from royal service, a calamity that razed their house, leaving but a pitiful remnant of outcasts. All this for a love song to a caliph's daughter. Such tales are legion. It is told of Al-Hasan ibn Hani that he was captivated by Muhammad ibn Harun, known as Ibn Zubaydah. The latter, sensing the poet's gaze, reproached him for his lingering stare. Al-Hasan confessed he dared not look so long, save that Muhammad was swayed by drink. Sometimes concealment guards against alarming the beloved or risking their loss. I knew a man whose beloved was at ease with him, yet had he hinted at his love, they would have grown as distant as the Pleiades in their lofty sphere. Such matters demand a statesman's tact. Though he revelled in their nearness, a mere whisper of his heart would have diminished their favour, bringing arrogance and caprice in its stead. The mastery of confidence would have slipped away, joy replaced by pretence and accusation. Where once he was a brother, an equal, he would become a slave, a captive. And had his feelings reached the beloved's circle, he would have seen them no more, save in dreams. All would end in his utter dismay. Lastly, concealment may arise from an overwhelming shyness that grips some souls, or from the beloved's aversion, prompting the lover, proud in spirit, to veil his emotions, showing foes and beloved alike his indifference to the matter of divulging the secret. In the tender realm of love there are moments when the veil of secrecy is torn asunder, and the hidden whispers of the heart are laid bare. This, alas, is among the most lamentable misfortunes that can befall a romance, a wound inflicted by manifold causes. At times, a man may unveil his secret merely to cloak himself in the garb of a lover, seeking to be counted among their noble ranks. Such an act is naught but a vile deception, a brazen effrontery, a counterfeit claim to the sacred name of love. On other occasions, the disclosure arises from the overpowering dominion of love itself, where the clamour of publicity triumphs over the quiet grace of modesty. In such a state, a man finds himself stripped of self-mastery, unable to govern his actions or temper his desires. This marks one of the furthest extremities of passionate love, wherein the heart so tyrannizes the mind that beauty is mistaken for ugliness, and ugliness adorned as beauty. Good is deemed evil, and evil cloaked as good. How many a man of impeccable repute, once shrouded in the most impenetrable veils of dignity, has found his modesty rent by the fierce winds of love? His innermost sanctuary is desecrated, his revered honour transformed into infamy, his serene solitude turned into a spectacle for public mockery. To become the subject of scandal becomes, in such a plight, his most cherished ambition. He indulges in deeds that once would have chilled his very soul at their mere mention, beseeching deliverance from their shadow. What was once arduous now seems effortless, what was grave becomes trivial, and what was insurmountable turns facile. I recall a youth of noble lineage, a cherished companion from an exalted house, who was consumed by an ardent love for a cloistered maiden. His passion drove him to the brink of madness, severing him from many a virtuous pursuit, and the marks of his infatuation were plain for all discerning eyes to behold. In time, the maiden herself felt compelled to rebuke him for the follies into which his fervour had led him. Musa Ibn Asim Ibn Amr once recounted to me a tale of his own experience. I was with my father, Abu al-Fath, may God's mercy rest upon him, penning a letter at his command. Suddenly my gaze fell upon a slave girl, for whom I harboured a deep infatuation. Unable to restrain myself, I cast aside the letter and pursued her. My father, struck dumb with astonishment, believed some grave affliction had befallen me. When my senses returned, I wiped my face, returned to him, and sought his pardon, claiming I had suffered a sudden nosebleed. Know, dear reader, that such conduct is enough to drive the beloved away, for it reveals a lamentable lack of finesse, a failure of wise stewardship. In every endeavour there exists a proper path to commence, and a fitting course to pursue thereafter. He who deviates from the rightful way or strays from the ordained path heaps his labours upon his own head. His toil becomes futile, his fatigue fruitless, his quests redundant. The further he wanders from the straight path, the more distant he grows from the object of his yearning. On this theme I offer a humble verse of my own composition. When trials loom before thy sight, meet them not with jesting light, nor on quests of ease expend all thy vigour to no end. Time with its boundless array plays tricks in a cunning way. Destiny with moods that sway brings endless shifts from day to day. However fate may weave its scheme, adapt thy manner to its theme. Against the small exert but slight, match great with great to stand aright. Hast thou not seen and understood how a lamp when newly lit burns crude? Its fragile flame so faint, so weak, a single breath can dim its peak. But when the wick glows fierce and bright, illuming broadly through the night, to blow and blow will only fan its blaze to fiercer, bolder span. I once knew a man of Cordova, the offspring of a high-ranking scribe in the civil service named Ahmad ibn Fath. I had always known him as a paragon of discretion, a devoted scholar of knowledge and letters, surpassing his peers in reserve and serene dignity. He frequented only the most virtuous assemblies, and his conduct was ever beyond reproach. He walked his own path, guarding his solitude. But fate decreed our separation, and when I settled in Jativa, the first tidings I received were of his transformation. He had fallen deeply in love with a goldsmith's son, Ibrahim ibn Ahmad, a youth whose merits I knew well scarce warranted the affection of one so noble in lineage, position, and wealth. It was confirmed to me that my friend had cast off all restraint, baring his soul to the world, unveiling his face and surrendering to carnal desires. His name became the gossip of the town, his tale carried on every tongue, his escapade a marvel to the scandalmongers far and wide. In the end, the veil of his private emotions was stripped away, his secret exposed, his honour tarnished, his reputation darkened. The object of his longing fled from him entirely, forbidding any further encounter. Yet how easily might he have spared himself this torment? Had he but concealed his deepest secret and hidden the afflictions of his heart, he could have continued to wear the robe of well-being, his dignity unmarred. He might still have nurtured his hopes, finding solace in the mere presence and discourse of his beloved. Alas, the thread of his excuses snapped, the evidence against him was undeniable, and the only plea in his favour was that his judgment had been clouded, his reason shaken by the tempest of his ordeal. This, indeed, would have been a valid defence. But if even a fragment of his understanding remained intact, if the smallest shard of his mind was still unblemished, then he erred grievously in acting in a manner he knew would wound and distress his beloved. Such is not the way of true lovers, as I shall expound in the chapter on compliance, God willing. There exists yet a third cause for unveiling the secret, one condemned by all upright souls as a base motive and ignoble conduct. When a lover perceives betrayal, weariness, or disdain from his beloved, he seeks retribution by exposing all, making the affair a public spectacle, an act that harms him far more than the one he aims to injure. This is a profound disgrace, a vile shame, the clearest evidence that such a man is utterly bereft of reason, no longer in possession of his senses. At times, disclosure emerges from idle gossip and rumours to which the lover pays little heed, content for his secret to be uncovered, whether out of vanity or the belief that such exposure might advance some fragment of his ambition. I have witnessed this stratagem employed by a friend, the son of a general. I have read in a Bedouin tale that their womenfolk find no satisfaction, no conviction of a man's love, until his sentiments are made known to all, until he proclaims and sings their praises for every ear to hear. I confess my bewilderment at this, given their reputed chastity. What chastity can a woman claim, if her greatest delight lies in such notoriety? Of compliance. Among the wondrous marvels of love is the manner in which the lover yields to the beloved, bending his own nature by sheer will to mirror that of the one he adores. Often you shall behold a man of unyielding disposition, obstinate, defiant, haughty, quick to take offence, transformed by the gentle breeze of love. Plunged into its depths, swimming in its boundless sea, his stubbornness softens into docility, his defiance into tenderness, his arrogance into submission. On this theme I offer a verse. Shall I be granted, O my friend, to return once more to thee, or must there be a bitter end to fate's relentless decree? The sword, O marvel to relate, becomes the baton's humble page. The captive, tame gazelle of late turns lion, fierce with rage. These lines echo the same truth. Though thou dost chide me, still I stand, the cheapest soul to meet thy hand, slipping swift as false gold's gleam through the tester's fingers' stream. Yet what joy it brings to me to perish for the love of thee. Marvel at one who smiling dies, with pleasure gleaming in his eyes. I have another humble offering on this theme. Were thy fair visage seen and weighed by Persian critics, finely made, little would they care, I swear, for Mobed or Hormozen's glare. At times the beloved recoils from the lover's laments, impatient with tales of woe. In such moments you shall see the lover veil his grief, suppress his despair, and conceal his affliction. Though the beloved heaps unjust accusations upon him, he offers apologies for faults he never committed, confessing to sins of which he is wholly innocent, solely to acquiesce to the beloved's words and avoid contention. I know of a man so afflicted, endlessly blamed by his beloved despite his purity, reproached and scolded though he was as unblemished as freshly fallen snow. Allow me to share verses I once addressed to a comrade. Though they do not precisely align with this context, they hover near the theme. Once thou didst greet me with a smile, delighted at my near approach, and if I turned away a while, thy face would bear a soft reproach. My nature is not so averse to bear a little blame's discourse. White hairs may seem a wretched sight, yet they're oft called a shameful blight. A man, when gazing in the glass, may deem himself uncommon plain, yet moles and spots for beauty pass, and need not cause such bitter pain. They are adornments when but few, and only mar when they accrue beyond their due in excess grown, and who has praised excess alone. A little further in the same poem I penned, O come thou to his aid, I pray. Such cares his weary soul dismay, that lo, he moves to tears the pen, the ink, the script and paper then. Let none declare that the lover's patience under the beloved's humiliation is a mark of cowardice. Such a judgment would be a grave error. The beloved is not to be seen as an equal or rival to the lover, where injury demands reprisal. The beloved's insults do not dishonour in the manner of worldly affronts. Their memory does not linger through the ages, nor do they unfold in the courts of caliphs or the salons of the mighty, where enduring an insult implies degradation and submission invites contempt. Sometimes you may see a man enamoured of his slave girl, his lawful possession, with naught to hinder him from taking his will of her. What purpose, then, in seeking vengeance upon her? No, the true grounds for anger lie elsewhere, justified only when insults are exchanged between men of high station, whose every breath is scrutinized, whose every word is weighed for profound meaning. Such men speak not idly, nor let remarks fall carelessly. But the beloved, she is at one moment an unyielding lance, at another a pliant twig, now cruel, now tender, swayed by caprice without reason. On this I offer a fitting verse. It is not just to scorn or blame a meek civility in love's name, for love humbles the proudest soul, and they bear it, feeling no toll. Then marvel not at my low state, my deep humility, my fate. Before I fell, this very plight humbled caliphs in their might. No peer is the beloved, no knight, no champion bold, no warrior bright, that her harsh words should bring thee shame, or her cruel taunts dishonour claim. An apple falling from the tree, striking thee with slight injury, would it be triumph worth thy pain, to slice that apple clean in twain? Abu Dulaf the stationer shared with me a tale he heard from the philosopher Maslama ibn Ahmad, known as Al-Madriti. In the mosque east of the Quraysh cemetery in Cordova, opposite the house of the vizier Abu Umar Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Hudayr, may God's mercy be upon him, there lingered Muqaddam ibn al-Asfar in his youthful days, bound by a romantic attachment to Ajib, the page boy of the aforementioned Abu Umar. Forsaking prayers at the nearby Masrur Mosque, he haunted this place day and night for Ajib's sake. More than once the night guard seized him as he departed after the second evening prayer, having done naught but gaze upon the boy. Angered, Ajib struck him with fierce blows, slapping his cheeks and punching his eye. Yet the young man rejoiced, exclaiming, "By God! This is my dream fulfilled, now I am content." He would then walk beside Ajib for a fleeting moment. Abu Dulaf added that Maslama recounted this tale often in Ajib's presence, marvelling at the lofty station Muqaddam later attained, intimate with Al-Muzaffar ibn Abi Amin, favoured by his family, builder of mosques and fountains, and benefactor of many charitable works, immersed in the benevolent pursuits of the powerful. A more startling example unfolds in the story of Said ibn Mundir ibn Said, who led prayers in Cordova's cathedral mosque during the reign of Al-Hakam al-Mustansir Billah. May God's mercy rest upon his soul. Deeply in love with a slave girl, he offered to free and wed her. She mocked him, noting his long beard, and said, "Trim it and your wish shall be granted." He took scissors to his beard, shaping it gallantly, then summoned witnesses to attest her manumission. Yet when he proposed, she refused. Among those present was his brother, Hakam ibn Mundir, who promptly proposed to her himself. She consented, and he married her on the spot. Said bore this grievous insult in silence, though he was renowned for piety and zeal. I myself met Said. He perished at the hands of the Berbers when they sacked Cordova. His brother Hakam led the Mutazilites of Andalusia, a poet, physician, and jurist of great piety, though now aged and blind at the time of this writing. Their brother Abd al-Malik, suspected of the same beliefs, served under al-Hakam in the office for the defence of the oppressed, but was crucified by al-Mansur ibn Abi Amir on charges of conspiracy with Abd al-Rahman ibn Ubaid God, grandson of Caliph al-Nasir, may God be pleased with them. Their father, Chief Justice Mundir ibn Said, shared similar suspicions, yet was a man of profound learning, eloquence, piety, and wit. A wondrous instance of submission is seen in a man I knew, who endured sleepless nights and searing pain, his heart rent by deepest emotions, until he overcame his beloved's resistance. Yet, perceiving her aversion to his intent, he withdrew, not from chastity or fear, but to honour her wish. Despite his burning passion, he could not bring himself to act against her will. Another man I knew acted similarly, only to repent upon discovering his beloved's betrayal. On this I have penned, "Seize the chance as it doth appear, as it opens wide to thee, for opportunities flee, my dear, swift as lightning's flash they be. Ah, the many deeds I let slip by, that I might have done with ease, and the years that passed brought naught but sigh, bitter tears, no sweet release. Whatsoever treasure thou dost find, pounce upon it without delay. Wait no moment, let not time bind, swoop like falcon on thy prey." This very fate befell Abu il-Muzaffar Abd al-Rahman ibn Ahmad ibn Mahmud, a dear friend to whom I shared verses that he embraced with boundless joy, making them his guiding light. While residing in Cordova's old city, I encountered Abu Abdgod Muhammad ibn Kulayb of Kairouan, a man of ceaseless inquiry. As we discoursed on love's manifold facets, he posed this question: "If one I love shuns my presence and evades my approach, what shall I do?" I replied, "I deem it fit to seek relief for thy soul by meeting the beloved, even against their will." He countered, "I disagree. I would honour the beloved's desire over mine own, enduring even unto death." I argued, "I love for my own fulfilment and delight. Thus I follow my own reasoning, guided by my principles, seeking my joy." He exclaimed, "That is a harsh logic. Worse than death is that for which thou cravest death, and dearer than life is that for which thou wouldst surrender it." I responded, "Yet thou wouldst lay down thy life under duress, not choice. If thou couldst avoid it, thou wouldst not perish. To forsake meeting the beloved willingly is reprehensible, for thou dost violence to thine own soul, leading it to ruin." He cried, "Thou art a dialectician, and dialectics bear no relevance to love," I concluded. "Then the lover is indeed unfortunate." He ended, "And what misfortune surpasses love?" Of opposition. At times the lover yields to his own desire, unleashing his heart without restraint. He finds healing at the beloved's hands, resolute to savour his delight, heedless of the beloved's anger or consent. If fortune aids him, if his heart remains steadfast and the stars align in his favour, he shall drink deeply from the cup of joy, his sorrows banished, his cares dissolved, his hopes fulfilled, his desires attained. I have witnessed lovers who trod this path, and on their tale I offer these lines. When I have had my heart's content, and slaked my soul's deep, burning bent, for some sweet fawn whose fire did sear my heart with longing ever near, I care not if she doth resist, or yield with malice in her twist, nor heed if she consents with spite, but seek my joy in pure delight. Wherever water I may spy, ill seize it swift, no chance deny, and with its spray my thirst allay, cooling my tamarisk's fiery play." Of the reproacher. Love bears within it manifold tribulations, and among the foremost is the reproacher. Reproachers come in diverse forms. The first is a true friend with whom the veil of caution has fallen away. His reproach surpasses many an encouragement, for it weaves incitements and prohibitions that wondrously stir and fortify the soul, healing those wounded by passionate longing. This holds true especially if the friend speaks with gentleness, adept at aligning his words with his intent, discerning when to stress restraint and when to urge action, or when to blend both, attuned to the lover's disposition, be it yielding or defiant, responsive or rebellious. The second is the relentless scolder who never ceases to chastise the lover. This is a heavy burden, a wearisome trial. I myself endured a kin ordeal, though not precisely of this nature. Our mutual friend, Abu el-Sari Amr ibn Ziyad, oft reproached me for a certain path I pursued, aligning with others who censured me on the same account. Yet I had always believed he would stand by me, right or wrong, bound by the steadfast friendship and true brotherhood between us. I have seen a lover so consumed by emotion, so utterly enraptured, that he relished reproach above all else, delighting in the chance to defy his censurer with stubborn resolve. He found joy in opposition, provoking further rebuke and triumphing over it, as a king revels in routing his foes or a debater in vanquishing his rival. At times this urge drives a lover to incite reproach, committing acts that compel the censor to voice his fault-finding. On this I have crafted these lines. To hear reproach and bitter blame, of all things this I hold most dear, for then perchance is named her name. whose mention banishes my fear. I quaff reproach as though a cup, brimming with wine so pure, so sweet, and having drunk its essence up, devour her name as finest treat of the helpful brother. Among the greatest blessings in love is that the Almighty bestows upon a man a sincere companion, one whose speech is pleasing, whose means are abundant, whose skill in managing affairs is unmatched, whose arguments are masterful, whose tongue is sharp yet kind, whose generosity is boundless, whose learning is vast, whose contradictions are few, whose support is mighty, whose endurance is steadfast, whose patience with insolence is great, whose compliance is broad, whose alliance is noble, whose character is praiseworthy, whose justice is untainted, whose resolve to aid is firm, whose aversion to estrangement is deep, whose endeavours are lofty, whose heart is free of hidden malice, whose thoughts are profound, whose understanding of his friend's desires is keen, whose habits are virtuous, whose lineage is noble, whose discretion is absolute, whose good deeds abound, whose trust is unwavering, whose spirit is free of treachery, whose sensibility is penetrating, whose intuition is precise, whose reliability is complete, whose protection is a perfect shield, whose fidelity is renowned, whose constancy is evident, whose temper is steady, whose counsel is wise, whose affection is sure, whose guidance is gentle, whose faith is lively, whose words are truthful, whose heart is joyful, whose purity is strict, whose prowess is wide, whose fortitude is enduring, whose sincerity is habitual, whose revulsion is foreign, whose presence is a haven in distress, and whose willingness to share the burdens of poverty and the secrets of intimacy is boundless. In such a friend the lover finds his truest repose. But where is such a soul to be found? If thou shouldst chance upon him, cling to him as a miser grips his gold, hold him fast as a niggard clutches his silver, guard him with all thou hast, sparing neither inheritance nor hard-won wealth, for in his companionship thy joy shall be complete, thy sorrows scattered, the long hours shall pass swiftly, and all thy affairs shall unfold with ease. With such a comrade no man lacks for noble aid or wise counsel. Thus do kings surround themselves with ministers and courtiers to lighten their heavy burdens and draw strength from their wisdom and competence. For human nature cannot withstand the ceaseless shocks of life without seeking succour from a kindred spirit, one mirroring its essence. Yet some lovers, finding this quality absent in their companions and harbouring little trust in them, knowing that he to whom a secret is confided often either mocks or betrays it, choose solitude over society. They withdraw to desolate places, communing with the winds and whispering to the earth, finding relief as the sick in their sighs or the sorrowful in their sobs. When cares crowd thickly into the heart, it can no longer contain them. If it does not vent them through speech or find solace in lamentation, the sufferer perishes of grief and succumbs to sorrow. I have seen none equal to women in this regard. They surpass men in guarding love's secrets, counselling discretion among themselves, and uniting to conceal such affairs when they come to know of them. Never in my life have I known a woman to betray the secret of a loving pair without being despised, loathed, and unanimously condemned by her sisters. Older women excel the young in this virtue. The latter may, on rare occasions, disclose what they know out of jealousy, while the former, having despaired of further romances, seek only the welfare of others. I know of a wealthy woman with many slave girls and servants. Rumours spread that one of her maids loved a young gentleman of the household, and that their affection was mutual, tinged with disgraceful conduct. A friend remarked to the mistress, "Your maid so-and-so is privy to the affair and knows every detail." The mistress, known for her harshness in punishing servants, seized the girl and subjected her to such a barrage of blows and beatings as even the stoutest man could scarce endure, hoping to extract some confession. Yet the maid revealed nothing, guarding the secret with unyielding resolve. I speak of a noble lady, a soul steeped in reverence, whose lips recite the Koran from its dawn to its dusk, a heart bound to piety and the pursuit of virtuous deeds. By chance she came upon a letter, a tender missive penned by a young man to his beloved, though he belonged to another household. With grace she unveiled her knowledge of his hidden affection, though he sought to cloak it in denial. Yet she spoke with compassion, saying, "What troubles thee? Who among us has not tasted the sweetness of love? Fear not, for by God thy secret shall remain enshrined within me. Were it within my power, I would expend all I possess to unite thee with her, in a sanctuary unseen by prying eyes, where thy heart might find its solace. There are too virtuous matrons advanced in years, who, having relinquished earthly desires, find their greatest joy, deemed pleasing to the divine, in arranging unions for orphaned maidens. With tender generosity they lend their own garments and jewels to brides in need, adorning them for the sacred bond of marriage. And why, one might ponder, does this inclination to love and its intricacies so deeply root itself in the feminine soul? I find no other reason but that their minds, unburdened by the myriad pursuits of men, turn naturally to the realm of affection, to the arts of courtship and intimacy. This, it seems, is their primary occupation, the very purpose woven into their creation. Men, by contrast, are scattered in their ambitions. Some chase wealth, others the favour of kings, some the vast ocean of knowledge, others the care of kin or perilous journeys, hunts, crafts, wars, rebellions, and the taming of the earth. Such diverse endeavours steal their leisure, diverting them from idle musings. I have read in the chronicles of African kings that their women are entrusted to a loyal guardian who assigns each a task, such as spinning wool, to occupy their hours fully. For, as they say, a woman without purpose yearns for love and the marriage bed. My own gaze has long lingered upon women, unravelling their mysteries to a degree rare among men. Nurtured in their midst, raised within their embrace, I knew no other company until the beard of youth sprouted upon my chin. It was women who taught me the Quran, who gifted me poetry, who refined my hand in calligraphy. From the earliest flickers of understanding, my sole endeavour has been to fathom their ways, to chronicle their tales, to amass every insight into their nature. Nothing I have witnessed of their actions escapes my memory. This pursuit stems from an innate jealousy, a profound suspicion of their enigmatic ways, through which I have gleaned much of their habits and hidden motives. These revelations, God willing, shall unfold in the chapters destined for them. Of the Spy. Among the afflictions of love lurks the spy, a fever within the soul, a relentless delirium, an obsession that haunts without cease. Spies are of many shades and guises. The first is the unwitting boor, who, without malice, plants himself in a place where lovers seek to unveil their hearts in whispered solitude. Though he may depart swiftly, his presence is a barrier, thwarting desire and shattering the loftiest hopes, more vexing than a graver threat. I once beheld two lovers, believing themselves cloaked in privacy, as they murmured sweet vows and prepared to savour their seclusion. Yet their chosen haven was no sacred refuge, and soon an irksome intruder stumbled upon them. Noticing me nearby, he turned and sat beside me, lingering far too long. If thou couldst have seen the young lover's visage, a canvas of despair and fury, thou wouldst have witnessed a marvel beyond words. I captured this scene in verse thus: he sits as hours slip away, a tiresome shadow, come what may, prattling of things that hold no sway, no spark of interest to convey. Ridwa, Yadbul, Shamam's height, Saman and Lebanon's great might, Hazan and Lukum in their flight, he outweighs them all day and night. Then there is the spy, who senses a whisper of the lover's secret, and driven by curiosity, seeks to unearth the full truth. He lingers, watches, counts their breaths, scrutinises their glances, a pestilence worse than any affliction. I knew a youth who nearly struck such a spy in rage. My verses paint this torment. He comes not seldom, but each day, with vile intent to prey and sway. What greater curse could bar my way than this unwelcome, grim delay? His persistence knows no bound. In absurd attention he's profound, till all the town has come to sound, were paired as noun and adjective found. Next, there is the spy who guards the beloved, a sentinel whose favour must be won. If swayed to kindness, he becomes the pinnacle of delight, oft celebrated in the lines of poets. I've seen a man so deft in softening such a spy that the guardian turned ally, feigning ignorance when needed, shielding the lover from peril and championing his cause. This too I wove into poetry. Many a spy stood watch with spite o'er the lady I longed to unite, by every art to keep us apart, resolved to rend my yearning heart. But soon my gentle ways did sway his stern resolve beneath my play, my fears transformed to carefree day, as trust replaced my dark dismay. He was a blade unsheathed to strike, ready to end me in one spike, but now a friend with kindness rife, his warmth to me an endless life. Another verse echoes this theme. He was an arrow poised to slay, now has my breath, my life, my way, once poison in my throat to stay, now antidote to heal my fray. Yet I know too of a man who entrusted a spy to guard one he cherished, believing in his loyalty, only to find this guardian his greatest bane, the root of all calamity. When no ruse avails to tame the spy, nor conciliation softens his gaze, the lover's sole solace lies in fleeting signals, glances, subtle gestures of the brow, veiled words in conversation. Even this scant exchange offers a fragile joy, a momentary balm to the aching heart. I penned a poem on this. A spy stands watch o'er my heart's delight, guarding my love through day and night, true to his master, steadfast, tight, bound by his oath, unyielding might. He blocks each path to my heart's ease, fulfilling a task as dire as disease, as if a demon in his soul does seize, seeing all through eyes that never cease. And in another stanza, two spies are set on all but me, yet God from his throne assigns a decree. A third to watch my every plea, a sentinel just for my heart's key. The vilest spy is he who once knew love's throes, endured its torments over long years, and having tasted its every shade now renounces it. With zeal he guards his charge from love's calamities, becoming a formidable foe. Praise be to God, what a masterful spy he proves, what mischief he unleashes upon lovers. My verses lament this, a spy who long knew love's cruel game, drank deep of passion, bore its shame, sleepless nights, desire's fierce flame, nearly laid him in the grave's cold frame. Every trick of ardent youth he tried, each ruse, each word, each wink applied, then, after pain, oblivion sighed, calling love a disgrace to be defied. Now o'er her I adore, he stands to guard, to keep my lovesick heart barred. What dire afflictions on us are starred, what fell misfortunes heavy and hard. Among the strangest tales of spying I recall is of two lovers, both enamoured of the same soul, mirroring each other's actions. Each, I observed, became the other's spy. This oddity I captured in verse. Two lovers struck by the same sweet dart, each bitten deep in the selfsame heart. They turn on each other in rivalry start, wrestling as brothers yet torn apart. Like a dog by the manger too sick to feed, yet too greedy to yield to another's need, their jealousy burns a bitter creed, neither will share nor ever recede. Of the slanderer. Another scourge of love is the slanderer, a shadow cast in two forms. The first seeks merely to sunder the lover's bond. Though less malignant, he is yet a deadly venom, a bitter herb, a looming doom, an imminent calamity. At times his fabrications fail to pierce the heart. Often he whispers to the beloved, while the lover, poor soul, choked by sorrow, silenced by rage, has no ear for such tales. Slanderers, knowing this, aim their barbs at minds unclouded by care, ready to flare with the wrath of a mighty ruler, eager to fault at the slightest provocation. Their methods of tale-bearing are manifold. They may claim the lover betrays the secret, a charge hard to counter and slow to mend, unless fate intervenes, and the beloved, resisting the lover's pleas, grows distant, an outcome that breeds aversion. Yet, if the beloved, wise and discreet, learns some fragment of the lover's true heart, she may withhold judgment. Discovering, after due reserve, that the slanderer's tale was false, and the lover guarded the secret, her doubts dissolve into clarity. I witnessed such a drama unfold between lovers. The beloved, ever vigilant and discreet, bore the marks of slander on her face. He spoke of a love that never was in truth, tormented by conjectures and dark thoughts, until, unable to contain his anguish, he revealed the accusations. If thou hadst seen the lover's excuses, thou wouldst know passion as a tyrant to be obeyed, a fortress unyielding, a lance sharp and piercing. His pleas blended humility, confession, denial, repentance, and surrender, until, after much ado, harmony bloomed anew between them. At times the slanderer claims the lover's affection is false, a mere pursuit of fleeting pleasure. Though grave when whispered, this accusation is easier to dispel, for the lover's true state differs starkly from that of a mere hedonist, as explored in the chapter on compliance. Sometimes the slanderer alleges the lover's heart is divided, a fire that consumes, an ache that pervades every limb. If the lover be youthful, comely, and worldly, and the beloved a lady of high station, she may seek to ruin him, even unto death. How many a fair youth has fallen thus, poisoned, struck down, or torn asunder for such a cause? So perished Marwan ibn Ahmad ibn Hudayr, father of Ahmad the ascetic and his brothers, at the hands of his slave girl Kata al-Nada. Thus I penned a cautionary verse for a friend. Will a man, save he be blind, trust his fate to womankind? What folly must he bear in mind to court such ruin unconfined? Ah, how many fools have strayed to doom's dark pool where death is laid, deeming it pure, a wholesome trade, yet drank the venom life betrayed. The second slanderer schemes to part the lovers for his own gain, to claim the beloved for himself. This is the deadliest, most decisive of all, fueled by personal ambition and relentless endeavour. A third kind slanders both lover and beloved, unveiling their secrets. If the lover remains steadfast, this type may be disregarded. I wove this into poetry. I marvel at the slanderer's art, who seeks to tear our secret apart. He bears but news of our heart, no other tale to spread or start. Why fret at my gloom or pain, or care if I falter and wane? I consume the fruit of my strain, while others bear the bitter chain. Here I must digress, though akin to our theme, to speak of tale-bearing and backbiting. Discourse flows as streams, one thought leading to another, as I foretold at this treatise's dawn. No souls on earth are viler than slanderers and backbiters. Backbiting reveals a tree rotted at its core, a branch diseased, a nature corrupt, an upbringing depraved. The born backbiter is a liar, for backbiting is but a limb of falsehood. Every backbiter is at heart a deceiver. I have never cherished a liar, though I may extend kindness to any man, despite grave faults, entrusting his soul to the Creator's mercy and valuing his virtues. A liar I cannot abide. His deceit erases all merit, nullifies his worth. I expect no good from such a one. Other sins may be repented, other vices hidden or forsaken, but lying there is no return from it, no veil to shroud it. In all my days I have neither seen nor heard of a liar who abandoned his craft without relapse. I have never severed ties with a companion, save when I detected his falsehood. Then I am the first to withdraw, shunning his presence. Lying is a stain, a fissure in the soul, a spiritual deformity I dread to behold. May God never forsake us nor withhold the shield of his grace. A sage of old counselled, befriend whom thou wilt but shun three, the fool who harms while meaning to help, the weary who fails thee in thy hour of need despite long fellowship, and the liar who betrays when thou trustest most. The prophet of God, peace be upon him, declared, to keep one's covenant is a part of faith, and further, no man is a complete believer while he lies, even in jest. These traditions I received through a chain of noble transmitters, from Abu Umar Ahmad ibn Muhammad to Umar ibn al-Khattab and his son Abd-God. May God be pleased with them both. God the Exalted proclaims, O ye who believe, why say ye that which ye do not? Hateful it is to God that ye should say that which ye do not. Quran 61:3. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was asked, may a believer be a miser? He replied, yes. And a coward? Yes. And a liar? No. This, too, I received through a lineage of narrators, alongside his saying, there is no good in lying, and a man will go on lying, marking black spots on his heart until it is wholly blackened, and his name inscribed in God's book as a liar. He further admonished, practice truthfulness, for truthfulness leads to piety, and piety to paradise. Beware of lying, for lying leads to sinfulness, and sinfulness to hell. A man once confessed to the Prophet, peace be upon him, 3 sins: drinking, fornication, and lying, seeking guidance on which to abandon. The Prophet commanded, give up lying. Reflecting on this, the man refrained from the others, lest he break his pledge by denying them. Returning, he declared, O Prophet of God, I have forsaken all 3. Thus lying is the root of all abomination, encompassing every evil, drawing the wrath of the Almighty. Abu Bakr al-Siddiq, may God be pleased with him, reported the Prophet saying, that man is without faith in whom trust cannot be placed. The Prophet further stated, the believer is liable to all dispositions, save treachery and lying, and three qualities mark a hypocrite: to promise and not fulfill, to lie when speaking, and to betray when trusted. What is unbelief, if not a lie against God? Truth is of God, and God loves truth. By truth the heavens and earth endure. I have seen no creature more shameful than a liar. Empires crumble, kingdoms fall, blood is shed unjustly, honour is violated, all through backbiting and lies. Backbiting stokes hatred and rancour, its bearer reaps only contempt, shame and humiliation, deserving to be scorned as one scorns a cur. Almighty God warns, woe unto every slanderous defamer. Quran 104:1. Again he cautions, O ye who believe, if there cometh unto you a sinful man bearing tidings, do you make the matter clear? Quran 49:6, naming the talebearer sinful. He further commands, Obey thou not the contemptible backbiting perjurer who goeth about with slander and is a hinderer of good, being a transgressor, a criminal, a low-born churl withal. Quran 68:10-13. The Prophet, peace be upon him, declared, No calumniator shall enter paradise, and beware of the three babblers, the talebearer, the receiver, and the issuer of tales. Al-Ahnaf wisely said, The trustworthy man does not carry reports, and the double-faced deserves no regard from God. Such is the weight of vileness they bear. A comrade once jestingly bore a false tale about me to the poet Abu Ishaq Ibrahim ibn Isa al-Thaqafi. May God have mercy on him. Though meant in jest, the imaginative poet believed it, igniting his wrath. I sent him verses to soothe his heart. Take not as truth a tale men weave, when thou canst not the truth perceive, lest in haste thou dost believe, and err as mirages deceive. To the talebearer, my friend, I penned, Jest not with matters grave and true, like healers who corrupt anew. Thy sharpest tool, deceitful brew, stains souls like filth the bustard through. I once had a friend swayed by lies told against me, their shadow darkening his gaze. My nature is to act with patience, to seek reconciliation with gentle forbearance. In quiet submission I mended our bond, then sent him a verse. In marksmanship my skills so keen, had it been shown none would demean. Wariz himself with bow unseen could scarce outshine my aim pristine. Of Ubaid God Ibn Yahya al-Jaziri, a born liar whose falsehoods became his constant companion, I wrote verses decrying his deceit, his oaths more false than desert mirages, his tales spun even to disbelieving ears. My lines to him are many, but I share a glimpse. All thou didst hide stands now revealed, thy malice by report is sealed, circumstance by truth appealed, proves thy guile no longer veiled. Yet he who counsels a heedless brother, protects a fellow Muslim, or warns of a foe without falsehood or intent to stir strife, is no tale-bearer. Have the weak ever perished, or the feeble-minded fallen, save for failing to discern true counsel from backbiting? Though akin in appearance, inwardly they diverge, one a malady, the other a remedy. To the wise this distinction shines clear. The true tale-bearer flouts sacred law, sows discord, stirs commotion and embellishes tales. If one fears to counsel, lest he stray into backbiting, lacking confidence in his own judgment, let him follow the light of faith, a lamp to guide his path, halting where it bids, advancing where it leads. The divine lawgiver who sent his messenger to mankind knows best the way of truth and the path to salvation, far beyond the flawed musings of mortal minds. Of union. Among love's radiant facets gleams union, a lofty blessing, an exalted station, a sublime rank, a star of fortune, nay, a renewed life, a supreme delight, an everlasting joy, a grand mercy from God. Were this world not a fleeting abode of trial, and paradise not the eternal reward of virtue, secure from all vexation, I would proclaim union with the beloved as unalloyed happiness, a gladness untouched by sorrow, the perfect fruition of hopes, the fulfillment of dreams. I have savoured every pleasure, known every joy, intimacy with princes, amassed wealth, recovery after loss, return after exile, safety after fear, repose in sanctuary, yet none stirs the soul as does union with the beloved, especially after prolonged denial and ceaseless separation. Then passion's flame blazes fiercer, yearning's furnace roars, and hope's fire surges unabated. Not the verdant herbs after rain, nor flowers gleaming at dawn, nor waters rippling through golden blooms, nor white castles amid green meadows. None rival the beauty of union with a beloved of virtuous character, laudable disposition and balanced perfections. This is a miracle beyond the eloquence of orators, a wonder defying the mind's grasp, before which intellect stands humbled. I sought to capture this in verse. Men oft inquire how long I've lived. Seeing silver crown my head unshrived, I count my years, with reason strived, and find my life 1 hour survived. How so, they ask in stunned surprise. This sum to me all truth defies. One day, I say, my love, my prize, lay in my arms, swift lips to mine. Though years stretch endless till him gone, I'll count my life that hour alone, a fleeting youth in joy full blown, all else but shadow dimly shown. Assignations and trysts, sweet phases of union, pluck the heart strings with exquisite grace. The fulfillment of a long-awaited promise stirs the soul uniquely. 2 facets shimmer here. First, the lover's pledge to visit the beloved, which I framed in verse. I whispered to the moon till dawn. Its light her beauty's gleam did spawn. In radiance her face was drawn, a vision where my heart was pawned. My troth I kept, my love did stay, union smiled, dark fears gave way, sweet bond laughed in bright array, estrangement fled, no more to sway. Second, the lover awaits the promise of visitation. The preludes to union, its first tender steps, stir the heart in ways unmatched by any other. I knew a man, consumed by desire for a maiden dwelling near, able to gaze upon her, converse for hours by day or night, yet barred from deeper intimacy. Fate at last conspired to grant him a measure of joy after despairing wait. His delight was delirious, his speech incoherent with bliss. I immortalized this in poetry. Had I sought God's pardon half as keen as I wooed that maid, my soul serene, my sustainer would forgive, though I'd been mean, however oft I strayed unseen. Had I prayed with fervour to tame the beast, as I begged her love my suit increased. No man would dread the lion's feast, my plea would calm its rage at least. Long she denied, then kissed with fire, rekindling in my breast desire. So might a traveller, parched, expire, drinking deep till lungs retire. Another poem echoes this fervour. Love fled like breath within my frame. I spurred my eyes to seek her name. I had a mistress fair as flame, who fled, yet sometimes kissed the same. Her lips I claimed, seeking repose, yet found new pain. Unrest arose, my heart once withered. Now it glows, like dry grass sparked by flames enclose. I knew a slave girl, ardent for a noble youth, who knew not her heart. Her sorrow deepened, her frame wasted, yet maidenly modesty and reverence held her silent. As certainty grew, she confided in her wise old nurse, who urged, "Hint thy love in verse." She did so, repeatedly, but he, though sharp of mind, sensed no hidden meaning. Her patience broke. One night, seated alone with him, a man of chastity, she kissed him suddenly as she rose to leave, then swayed away in silence. I painted this in poetry. As she withdrew, the lissom maid, this way and that her grace displayed. Like Narcissus in the breeze, swayed beneath the trees, her charm arrayed. Deep in his heart her pendants chime, a melody of love sublime. I love thee dearly, dost thou mine? Her earrings sing in tender rhyme. Her poise, a dove's unhurried pace, not slow nor hasty to disgrace, perfect in step, a gentle trace, mirrored love in every space. The youth, stunned, was ensnared by passion, his heart ablaze, sleep fleeing as fears and sighs besieged him through the night. Thus began a love enduring many moons, until separation's cruel hand severed their bond, a devilish incitement no soul could resist, save under God's mighty shield. Some claim prolonged union dulls love, a base notion of those swift to tire. Nay, the longer the bond, the firmer its hold. I, having drunk deep of union's waters, thirst evermore, for the remedy fuels the malady, a fleeting respite, soon vanished. I have reached love's furthest peaks, yet crave beyond, finding no weariness in enduring delight. One day, seated with a beloved, pondering union's myriad forms, I found none to sate my longing. The closer my goal, the further it fled, kindling anguish in my breast. I wrote of this, "Come, cleave my heart's solitude apart, lay my love within its wounded start, stitch it with care, a tender art, let her dwell there, never to depart." With morn may she seek no other place, but claim this room in fond embrace, till doom's dark day her saving grace, my heart's abode, her resting space. No state rivals the bliss of lovers, secure from spies, safe from slander, free from separation, unwearied by each other, untouched by reprovers, their natures attuned in equal ardour, blessed by lawful union under God's approval, enduring unbroken till death's inevitable decree. Yet this grace is not fully granted to all. Dread of sudden calamity, unforeseen parting, or death in youth's bloom shadows even this joy. Were it not for such fears, I would name this union a haven beyond misfortune. I have known men who held all these blessings, save that their beloved's coquettish wayward nature marred their peace, disputes flaring daily. Both, confident in the other's love, persisted thus until death parted them, the immutable law of this fleeting world. I lamented in verse, how can I fault separation's sting, when my love herself such strife does bring? Her ways, like parting, ever cling, seeking to sunder everything. Passion's woe was grief enough to bear, how shall I endure this double despair? Passion and parting, a cruel pair, strike my soul with relentless glare. Ziyad ibn Abi Sufyan once asked his courtiers, who lives most blissfully? They replied, the Prince of the Faithful. But what of the Quraysh's troubles? He countered. Then thou, they said. And what of the Khariji's and border strife? He asked. Then who, O Prince? They pressed. He answered, a good Muslim, wed to a good Muslim wife, with means enough, content with each other, knowing me not, nor I them. Is there aught more captivating, gladdening the heart, enchanting the senses, dominating passion, ravishing reason, than a lover's tender anxiety for the beloved? I have seen such scenes, stirring compassion, especially in clandestine romances. If thou couldst witness the beloved's subtle hints when questioned on her anger, the lover's perplexity as he offers excuses, her wilful misreading, his deft interpretations for bystanders, thou wouldst behold a marvel, a secret joy surpassing all pleasures. Nothing so deeply pierces the heart's core as this. Lovers in union wield excuses so plausible they baffle the sharpest minds. I have seen this oft and penned. If one blends truth with cunning lies, to fools they merge in sweet disguise, yet wise men note with clearer eyes the stark divide that truth supplies. Silver fused with gold's bright gleam, to foolish boys pure does seem, but jewellers know with skill supreme, counterfeit from true redeem. I knew a boy and girl, deeply fond, who in company reclined with a grand cushion between, heads meeting behind to kiss unseen, feigning weariness. Their mutual love swelled, though the youth at times grew arrogant. I wrote, Time's tale brims with wonders rare, surprising ear and speech to share, mounts that crave the spurs' harsh glare, givers wooing askers bear. Captive glowers, captor quails, slain assails, slayer pales, yet never till now in love's trails did hope bend to yearners' wails. A trusted woman recounted seeing a youth and maiden passionately entwined in a joyous spot. He cut fruit, nicking his thumb, and she, clad in costly silk, tore a strip to bind his wound, a lover's duty, for having offered life and soul, how could he withhold aught else? I knew the daughter of Zakaria ibn Yahya al-Tamimi, niece of Cordova's Chief Justice, wed to Yahya ibn Muhammad. Death claimed him in their joy's bloom. That night she slept beside him under one blanket, bidding a final farewell to their union. Her grief lingered till her own passing. Union snatched in secret, evading spies with smothered laughter, subtle coughs, gestures and touches, delights the soul most sweetly. I wrote, secret union yields a joy so rare, beyond the common open affair, from steady bonds no thrill compare, as hidden love's sweet cautious glare. Mingled with delight a fear so true, like marching o'er rocks and sands anew, a traveller's dread in paths askew, yet union's thrill does heart imbue. A trustworthy comrade from a noble lineage shared his boyhood passion for a slave girl of his household, barred from her yet crazed with longing. On an excursion near Cordova, rain fell, and his uncle, lacking covers, draped a wrap over them both. Beneath, he knew bliss under watchful eyes, unseen, a reunion akin to privacy, a gathering like a tete-a-tete. His laughter recounting this quivered with joy despite time's passage. I summed it in verse, the meadows laughed in joyous cheer, the clouds wept drops a tender tear, as lovesick boy his darling near beheld her face, all grief to clear. A novel union I heard from a friend, enamoured of a girl in a neighbouring apartment, visible from a vantage point. She greeted him, hand wrapped in her blouse, explaining, lest another mimic me, and thou reply, confirming suspicions. If a bare hand waves, know it is not mine, and answer not. Sometimes unions, pleasure and heart's harmony breed recklessness, lovers heedless of reprovers, guardians or talebearers, where reproach becomes incitement. I close this chapter with verses on union's theme. How oft I've fluttered round love's flame, finding like moths the end the same. Again, desire's sweet spurs to union lead, as night-bound souls to campfire speed. Again, oft union with my love did ease the flames that raged, my heart to seize, as dying men, by drought's disease, in living waters find release. Again, fix not thy gaze on one fair form, for beauty's bounds through worlds do swarm, her endless grace in every storm spreads wide, no single shape to norm. Finally, from a longer ode, oh, who will pay for love's cruel slay? Or ransom those whom passions sway, imprisons tight in dark dismay, or grant me her once more to stay. All day by sweet streams I did swim, yet thirsted still, my heart so grim, strange to drench my limbs so trim, yet not my burning thirst to dim. Dear mistress, I am wasted so by love's fierce pains that none may know, my sick-bed guests no sign bestow, where I, unseen, in anguish grow. How then did love, where others fail, find this sufferer so frail, so pale, invisible to all who trail, yet pierced by passion's sharp assail? My healer tires, his cure does wane, while enviers pity my deep pain. Love's malady, a cruel chain, binds me where none can ease my strain. Of breaking off among love's tribulations looms breaking off, manifold in its guises. First is the parting caution demands in a spy's presence, a delight surpassing many a union. Were it not for the terms outward sense and nomenclature's rule, I would place it elsewhere, deeming it too sublime for this chapter. Here, thou seest the beloved withdraw, addressing another, weaving subtle hints lest her intent be suspected. The lover mirrors her, though swayed more by instinct and passion, seeming to advance even as he retreats, eyes averted yet heart fixed, speaking in silence. The discerning soul, through imagination, grasps the hidden meaning beneath their words, knowing their true intent belies their outward speech, a spectacle stirring, inspiring, awakening chivalry's deepest call. I offer verses touching this, though at times straying from the mark, as I forewarned of such divergence. Abul Abbas shames his name, unknowing of his nature's frame, as fish might fault the ostrich's claim, for thirst it bears, yet feels no shame. Again, how oft I've aided friends, though loath, not reluctant, yet seeking growth with other aims my heart betroth. To ends unseen I pledge my oath. From a longer ode of wisdom and nature's laws I guard my joy for friends apart, baring fangs to foes with art, smiling on those it thwart at heart, my true intent a hidden chart. The colocynth, though vile to taste, is sought for healing, not to waste, while honey, sweet in every case, is shunned when need does not encase. So, when need bids my soul comply with what I hate, ill not defy, turning lust from what I'd try to what I must, those spirits cry. Jewels in ocean's dark abyss, pearls in dungeons none dismiss, are gained by dives, a daring bliss, plunging deep, no fear amiss. I drag my soul from instinct's lair, when surer paths my goal repair, as God's laws anew declare a better good for men to share. I match my ways to crowds around, conforming where their rules abound, yet keep my virtue pure, unbound, my soul's true essence safe, profound. So water shifts to vessel's hue, though pure and white its essence true, adapts in form yet stays anew, its core unchanged in every view. Another stanza follows. My faculties and loves entwine, hand in glove their bonds divine. By both I live, in fear recline, lest loss of either life define. Later these lines unfold. Am not swayed by cheer or cold, nor aloofness my thoughts unfold. Within I distance from such mould, yet smile and bow their welcome told. I've seen war's fire, destruction wide, at first a jest, a game to bide, yet soon its tinder fierce does ride, consuming all in raging stride. The serpent's speckled, lovely guise hides poison dire beneath its lies, a woven thread where death applies To strike men down unseen it tries, the scimitar's bright gleaming blade attracts with charm, so finely made, yet wielded swift its harm is laid, a mortal wound by cunning played. Thus humility I deem supreme, when it fulfills a cherished dream, better than glory's quick esteem, with base abasement in its stream. The proudest warrior bows to dust, to rise in honour as he must, submission's path, a nobler trust than fleeting fame in shame unjust. Self-denial oft brings delight, abundance from a frugal fight, no soul tastes fame in humble plight, who scorns to labour through the night. To reach far waters, thirsting sore, is sweeter than repose galore, effort's reward, a joy to store, than idle ease for evermore. Further, I muse, all creation holds some good, seen aright as wisdom should. If best be barred, take what thou could, content with less as life withstood. Yet drink not mud, save direst need, when no pure source thy thirst can feed, and shun the brine, though lips may bleed. Thirst endured, a nobler creed. Another pair of stanzas. Take of her favours what comes light, content with ease, no strife ignite, nor strive for what force must incite. A violent gain, a shadowed blight. She is not thy chattel, bound by deed, to serve thy will, thy every need, nor, if won, will she concede a parent's love in thought or deed. Here are another 2 stanzas. Let not thy heart despair of reaching that distant shore where cunning schemes of fate may lead thee to thy goal. A vast expanse of trials stretches before thine eyes, yet strive thou must to claim the hard-won lofty prize. Trust not the cloak of night's oppressive gloom, for soon the dawn shall pierce with radiant bloom. Nor let the sun's fierce glare thy spirit blind, its arc descends impartial on all mankind. And now permit me to unveil 3 further stanzas from this same wellspring of inspiration, a masterpiece of enduring beauty. Persevere, O soul, with unyielding might, as rivers in their ceaseless flow, by sheer will alone erode the stubborn granite, stone by stone, carving paths through time with patient fight. Strive ever onward, let not thy pace grow slack, count little of thy gains, for small they seem. A drizzle, though modest, pierces with its gleam, no deluge, yet it carves a lasting track. He who accustoms himself to sip the bitter draught finds poison turned to nourishment, a strange alchemy. In time it strengthens as much as wholesome fare, a tonic forged from trials once held in enmity. Then there unfolds the delicate art of parting, born of coquetry, a severance sweeter than many a union, a playful test. It blooms only when trust binds lover and beloved fast, each assured of the other's loyalty, in heart confessed. The beloved feigns retreat, a trial of patience cast, lest the sun of romance shine without a cloud to rest. At such times the lover, if gripped by passion vast, despairs not of the present, but of shadows yet to form, fearing deeper ruptures, or the beloved's weary scorn. I too, in youth, knew such a fleeting storm, a rift with a dear companion, soon mended, yet reborn. When such breaks recurred, I wove a jest in verse, blending my own lines with those of Tarafa ibn al-Abd, from the suspended ode, learned at the feet of sages past in Cordova's grand mosque under Abu Sa'id al-Fatah's caste, transmitting wisdom through generations steadfast. I recalled the love I bore for her, my heart's delight of yore, now faint as Kaula's traces, windswept on Thamad's rocky shore. The bond she pledged, so clear in memory, still endures, like the blue tattoo upon an Arab's hand, vivid and pure. I lingered, uncertain if she'd return to me once more, yet hope lingered, and tears flowed till dawn, sleep no cure. My kin reproached me, their words a sharp encore. Perish not in grief, they urged, let courage be thy law. The whims and furies of my fickle lady, whom I adore, are as schooners wrecked on dad's torrent bed, a jagged shore. Her alternations of disdain and union my heart they tore, like a ship steered by a helmsman, catching winds to soar. At first she smiled a while, then turned in wrathful law, as children divide their playthings on sandy fleeting floor. Her lips graced me with smiles, yet rage in her heart bore, a dual necklace, pearls of joy and chrysolith of war. Next comes the parting born of reproach, a sting for lover's fault, a trial of hardship, yet balanced by reunion's sweet assault. The beloved's renewed favour, after anger's fiery volt, yields a joy unmatched by earthly pleasures, a celestial exalt. Has any eye beheld or mind conceived a state so sweet as when spies and slanderers vanish and lovers once more meet? Parted briefly by misstep, now they sit in tender retreat. The lover pleads with humble grace, his arguments discreet. Bold or abased, he seeks forgiveness, confessing sins unmeet. Though guiltless, he bows, while she, eyes cast down, discreet, steals glances or gazes long, till smiles their discord unseat. The air lightens, misunderstandings fade, her yes a treat. Thy fault, though real, it pardon more so, since thou art neat. Their bond, reforged, shines stronger, reproaches obsolete, a scene beyond words where tongue falters to entreat. I have walked the courts of caliphs, stood in kings' grand halls, yet never seen awe like that of lover before beloved's calls. I've watched conquerors triumph, viziers in power enthrall, but none matches the lover's joy when her heart he installs. I've seen subjects plead before sovereigns, offenders in thrall, yet none so abject as the lover facing beloved's angry squalls, her fury a tempest unyielding as passion over all sprawls. I too have known both states, unbending as steel in one, sharper than sword, unmoved by pleas, my will not undone. In the other, softer than cotton, yielding as a garment spun, eager to humble myself, seeking favour with every pun, crafting eloquence, weaving fancies, till her heart I've won. False accusation oft marks parting at love's dawn or dusk. At first a sign of true affection, a tender testing husk. At end a cooling flame, the gateway to oblivion's musk. I recall a day by Babamir's cemetery in Cordova's trust, with students and traditionists bound for Rusafa's dust, to Shaykh Abu al-Qasim's lecture, my revered guide just, joined by Abu Bakr al-Balawi, a poet of talent robust. He recited verses on one prone to false claims. A crust of bitterness, he hastens down his primrose way, unjust, heedless of what lies ahead, swift to love's bonds bust. A weary task to mend affection's cloak torn by distrust. As I patch, he rips anew with cruel, careless thrust. Then Abu Ali al-Hussein joined, smiling at our gust. Rather, not love's cords, God willing, he mused. A must, despite his piety and virtue, his words a gentle thrust. Inspired, I penned, cease thy intent to rend my love's crust, O tyrant, relent, mend our broken threads, be thou just. Thou shalt return, though unwilling, as wise law doth adjust. At times parting bears reproaches, sweet if they remain light, but if they swell to grave proportions, they herald blight. A harbinger of separation, a prelude to endless night, yet tender reproach born of care is a delicate delight. I wrote, when thou blamest me, perchance thou'lt show might, forgiving all, blessing my name with thy merciful sight. How oft a day begins with sun, yet thunders by twilight, then clears as I hope to see thee in renewed insight. Once, inspired by such reproaches on a spring day bright, I penned those lines as two brothers, friends of mine, took flight. Returning from travel, one with ophthalmia's plight, neglecting me, I wrote to the elder in rhymed invite, I spoke to thy brother of sorrows a grievous recite. But if clouds veil the sun at noon, what of moon's light? Then there is parting spurred by slanderers' venomous bite. Their poison oft sunders bonds, leading to final blight. Next, the parting born of weariness, a human flaw innate. Such a soul merits not true love, nor brotherhood's weight. Inconstant in covenant, fleeting in every state, his love and hate untrustworthy, a fickle, fleeting trait. Shun his company, for no gain lies in his bait. I exclude this vice from lovers, mark it beloved slate, for they oft accuse falsely, suspect, and sever fate. None embodied this more than Abu Amir, God's grace await, his impatience for slave girls a fever, a desperate rate. Yet once possessed, love turned to scorn, a cruel estate. He squandered fortunes, yet bore culture, wit, and state, a noble visage, beauty beyond words to relate. Crowds thronged his door in Cordova near my own gate to glimpse him, while slave girls perished for his fate. One Afra wept openly, her love a public weight, passing to another's household, broken by love's spate. Abu Amir confessed even his name grew stale, a trait changing friends as swiftly as finches change their gait. Heed not such a one, adapt to whims or face heartbreak. I counsel in verse, hope not in him whose love doth abate, an inconstant friend's boon is but a worthless plate. Shun such love, alone thou must soon rebate. Another parting arises when lover withdraws, in pain innate, seeing beloved's harshness or rival's intrusive state. Death looms, despair chokes, bitterer than colocynth's hate, so he retreats, heart shattered, yet love won't abate. I penned, I shun whom I love, not from hate's dictate, but unable to bear her fair face, my traitorous fate. Death, sweeter than desiring a heart open to all's bait, flames pierce my breast, unrest my constant mate. Yet God permits the captive in fear to hide his state, avowed apostasy cloaking faith by divine mandate. I knew a man tormented by unrequited love's weight, his beloved fled till fortune neared union's gate. At the brink she withdrew further than ever a cruel slate, I wrote. My need seemed remote as Jupiter's estate. Fortune relented, showing my prize, a near debate, then snatched it away as if never seen, a dire fate. My hope neared, hand outstretched, then fled to Milky Way's rate, from certainty to despair, Sirius my lost estate. All envied my chance, now I yearn in desolate state. Fate toys with good and ill, trust not its fickle trait. Lastly, parting from hatred, the final dire strait, all ruses fail, reason bewildered by this cruel fate. Seek the beloved's wish, shun what she doth hate, if she values concord her heart may reinstate. Else all deeds turn crimes, hope lost in her slate. Then strive for oblivion, ease thy soul's weight. I saw such a man and wrote, I adored one who'd berate, even if saved from death, wishing grave's estate. 'Tis not my fault if fate mars my spring's date. What complaint against sun, if weak eyes it does debilitate? I mused further, hateful to part after union's sweet estate, yet union divine after avoidance's bitter weight. One, wealth after poverty, the other, loss after great, a cycle of joy and pain in love's eternal debate. I crafted more. Thy nature splits in twain, a dual fate like Newman of old, with days of bliss and hate. Thy grace dawns on others, not me in my desolate state, my day with woe, banishment, a bitter plate. Does not my love merit some gentle rebate? A fragment. O thou sweet epitome of grace innate, how does death strike from thee when thy face my star does illuminate? An ode. Is this parting the judgment's dire strait, this night of gloom, the vigil of doom's weight? My banishment, believers' fleeting pain, or infidels' eternal fate? God bless those joyous days, nights of folly's gate, memories fragrant as nenuphar, fresh in heart's estate. The lily's blaze mirrors our days, its core night's cruel blade, cutting life's thread as time's heedless charade. Yet fair promise turned perfidy, a trust betrayed. O soul, despair not, fortune may yet aid. As God granted Umayyad's rule, I wait unafraid. These lines, from a panegyric for Abu Bakr Hisham, I laid, brother to Caliph Abd al-Rahman, God's mercy on him stayed. Does not the soul hold near and far, compressed, not strayed, in breast's dark dungeon, as time, a body, spirit arrayed, knowing all that may befall in wisdom displayed? Finally, 2 stanzas, a tribute to a king's parade. Nations offer tribute, accepted with renewed regard, not swayed, as rivers' overflowing banks to boundless sea are conveyed. Of fidelity. Among the noble virtues and lofty traits that adorn the human soul, whether in the tender realm of love or life's broader scroll, fidelity stands exalted, a beacon of pure lineage and whole, varying in degree as all creation bears diversity's roll. I offer a poem, 2 stanzas from its gentle toll. Man's deeds reveal his inner essence, a truthful goal, no further clue needst thou seek, the evidence doth roll. And, does oleander yield raisins, or bees store aloes in their shoal? Nature's truth holds fast, fidelity's unswerving pole. The first rung of fidelity is to mirror faith with faith, a sacred dole, an obligation binding lover and beloved, an unbreakable goal. None strays from this path save those of base, ignoble soul, lacking grace and virtue, their heritage a hollow knoll. Had my intent not been confined to love's intricate scroll, as thou didst bid it delve into character's vast control, how innate traits grow by nurture, acquired ones fade, uncontrolled. But my purpose was to weave this discourse on love's threshold, a manifold theme whose full expanse would time untold enfold. In the realm of human bonds and sacred trusts, I have beheld with mine own eyes a spectacle of fidelity so harrowing yet so profound that it sears the soul with its tragic beauty. A man of my acquaintance, bound by a love so deep that it rivaled life itself, chose to sever the ties of his heart's devotion to preserve a secret entrusted to him. Though his beloved, cherished above all, swore never to speak with him again unless the secret was unveiled, this man, steadfast as a mountain against the tempest, held fast to his vow. Even with the one who entrusted him far removed, he guarded the truth with unyielding resolve, while his beloved, in equal determination, kept her distance until the relentless hand of time parted them forever in an eternal silence. There exists a second tier of fidelity, a virtue rarer still, where one remains true to a betrayer. This noble trait belongs solely to the lover, not the beloved, for the latter bears no such burden. Fidelity of this order demands a spirit forged in strength, broad of shoulder, magnanimous of heart, patient beyond measure, resolute in judgment, and pure in intent. To repay treachery with treachery incurs no blame, yet to rise above such base reciprocity, to withhold injury for injury, malice for malice, in word or deed, is a loftier path by far. It is to cling to the fragile thread of friendship as long as a glimmer of hope for reconciliation remains, as long as the faintest whisper of renewed intimacy can be heard, or the slightest sign of restoration perceived. Yet when despair finally grips the heart and resentment clouds the soul, one must strive to shield the erring friend from petty wrath, to guard them from malice, and to protect them from the venom of spite. Let the memory of past kindnesses temper the bitterness of present wrongs, for loyalty to old bonds is the sacred duty of the wise, and to cherish the echoes of bygone days, refusing to forget what once was, is the truest mark of fidelity. This is a quality of exquisite beauty, worthy to grace all human dealings regardless of time or circumstance. I recall a dear friend, entwined in a love so fierce with a young slave girl that their bond seemed unbreakable, until she shattered his trust and sundered their affection. The tale spread like wildfire, and his anguish was a wound laid bare for all to see. Another companion, once united with me in a friendship beyond reproach, where secrets were shared and formalities cast aside, turned ignoble in his intent. He betrayed my confidences, though I held far graver knowledge of his own faults. When he learned I knew of his treachery, fear seized him, dreading my retaliation. Yet I penned verses of solace to ease his mind, assuring him I sought no vengeance for his baseness. Another memory stirs, though it strays from the precise theme of this discourse, yet aligns with its spirit. Muhammad ibn Walid ibn Maksir, the civil secretary, was once a devoted friend during my late father's viziership, but when the unnamed tumults of Cordova altered our fates, he departed to another land, aligning himself with its ruler and rising to wealth and prominence. On a journey, I found myself in that same region, yet my old friend failed in his duty to me. My presence irked him, and he treated me with cold disdain. I sought a small favour, but he feigned preoccupation with matters of no urgency, offering no aid. In response, I composed a poem of gentle reproach. He replied with words meant to appease, yet I pressed him no further. On this theme, though tangential yet kindred, I crafted verses from which I now draw: to guard a secret well secured is no great feat, in truth confessed, but nobler far to shield a tale that whispers on each passing breath. So too is generosity most grand when what is given shines as rare, and he who gives is known to cling with miser's grip to all he bears. A third degree of fidelity emerges, even more sublime, when loyalty endures beyond all hope after death has claimed the beloved, and sudden passing has extinguished every chance of reunion. To remain faithful in such desolation is a nobility surpassing even that shown in life, when the heart yet dreams of meeting once more. A woman of unimpeachable trust once shared with me a tale of a slave girl, of breathtaking beauty, in the house of Muhammad ibn Ahmad ibn Wahb, known as Ibn al-Raqiza, a descendant of Badr who entered Andalusia with the Imam Abd al-Rahman ibn Muawiyah, may God be well pleased with him. This girl, once owned by a master now deceased, was sold with his estate, yet refused all suitors thereafter, preserving her chastity until she met her sustainer, the Almighty. A gifted singer, she denied her art, choosing the humble role of servant over the comforts of a life of pleasure or procreation. Her new master sought to elevate her to his bed among his concubines, but she resisted, enduring beatings and harsh correction with steadfast honour. Such fidelity is a rarity beyond compare. Know, then, that the mantle of fidelity weighs heavier upon the lover than the beloved, binding him with stricter cords, For it is the lover who first kindles the flame of attachment, who seeks the bond of affection, who petitions for true closeness. He stakes his claim to preference, fettering his soul with the chains of love, bridling it with the strongest restraint. Who compelled him to such devotion, if not his own will to fulfill his vow, to seal his affection with unwavering loyalty to the one he desired? The beloved, by contrast, is but the object of his yearning, free to accept or reject his suit. If she accepts, his hopes are crowned. If she refuses, no blame attaches to her. To propose union, to persist in courtship, to mould oneself to her desires, to lay bare all truths between them, these are not fidelity itself, but the lover's pursuit of his own joy, driven by love's inexorable call. True fidelity shines only when betrayal is possible, yet refused. It imposes upon the lover sacred duties, to keep faith with the beloved, to guard her secrets, to shield her flaws, to herald her virtues, to overlook her missteps, to bear her burdens without overstepping into aversion, to match her eagerness without languor, and her weariness without haste. If her love mirrors his, she too is bound by these tenets. If it falls short, he must not force her to his measure, nor chide her to win her heart. Should she feel no affection at all, let him accept what fate grants, demanding no rights, content with whatever providence bestows. Be mindful that deeds unseemly to others appear fair to those who commit them, rendering their ugliness doubly repugnant to the innocent observer. I speak not to boast, but in humble adherence to the command of God, the all-powerful, who declares, "And as for the bounty of thy sustainer, proclaim it abroad." Quran 93:11. By his grace I have been blessed with fidelity to every soul with whom I have shared even a fleeting bond, protecting those with whom I have conversed, if only for an hour. For this immense favour I offer thanks and praise to God, beseeching him to sustain and increase his mercy toward me. Nothing repulses me more than treachery. By my life I have never contemplated harm against any with whom I have had the slightest tie, no matter their offences or the weight of their sins against me. Though I have borne many grievous wounds, I have ever returned good for evil. Praise be to God for this strength. I take pride in my fidelity, as expressed in a lengthy poem recounting the trials I have endured, the sorrows of a life spent wandering from one encampment to another across vast lands. It begins thus. He departed, pursued by all my noble endurance, tears spilling from his eyes, revealing the heart's hidden ache. A weary frame, a tender soul, doomed to part, brimming with a grief too vast for words. No home thereafter held him, no land offered rest. His nightly bed, unwarmed, was forsaken ere morn. Methinks his spirit dons a shroud of fleeting cloud, driven by heaven's wayward winds to endless horizons. Or he is like the brief creed of pure belief, spurned by infidels, cast from their erring breasts. Or perhaps an errant star, traversing distant skies, now sinking in the west, now rising with eastern light. If she rewarded him, I muse, or eased his plight, her flooding tears would trail him wherever he roamed. I further exalt my fidelity in another extended ballad, though much of it diverges from this essay's theme. I composed these verses in response to adversaries who, failing to counter my arguments in defence of truth, hurled vile accusations at me out of envy for my rhetorical skill. Thus, I crafted this spirited poem for a wise friend, from which I extract these lines. Take me as thy Moses rod, and bring them all, by God. Let each be a serpent amidst lote trees, flicking forked tongues. Their wondrous lies they boldly cry when I am not nigh. The lion cowers, aye, but waits his moment to pounce. They harbour wild hopes for what they shall never grasp. Their master, the Rafides think, can work impossibilities. If my resolve and self-control dwelt in each timid soul, the languishing eyes of beauties would hold no sway, scorning as verbs intransitive to live in base dependence like prepositions refusing to govern as they will. My judgment carves its path through all hidden from day, as pulsing arteries traverse the mortal frame, discerning with a glance the labyrinthine ant's trail, while elephants crouch unseen in night's deep veil. Of betrayal. As fidelity stands as a pinnacle of virtue and a crown of nobility, so betrayal is a pit of baseness utterly detestable. The term applies solely to those who initiate treachery. To repay betrayal with betrayal, though equal in act, is not true perfidy. And such a one bears no censure, for God himself declares, "And the recompense of an evil act is an evil act like unto it." Quran 42:40. Yet we understand the second act is not evil in essence. It is named so only by its resemblance to the first. This shall be elaborated in the chapter on forgetting, if God so wills. Since betrayal oft marks the beloved, fidelity in her becomes a marvel, its rarity deemed to balance its abundance among lovers. I have woven this thought into a brief poem. Small faithfulness in the beloved is exceedingly prized, while lovers' great fidelity is met with scant surprise. So cowards, seldom brave in battle, are more lauded when they dare, than heroes who endure the day's fierce heat and fray. A betrayal most vile occurs when a lover entrusts his secrets to an emissary sent to the beloved, only for the messenger to steal her affection for himself, usurping his sender's place. I captured this in rhyme. I sent an envoy unto thee, my hopes to secure. I trusted him too blindly, now he stands between us. He loosed the cords of my true love, then bound his own. He drove me from the haven I might have claimed. I, who summoned him to aid, now witness his triumph. I fed him at my board, now hang upon his mercy. The Qadi Yunus ibn Abd-God once recounted to me a tale from his youth. A slave girl of a noble house was ardently loved by a young man of high culture and royal lineage. She returned his passion, and they exchanged letters through a companion of his who had free access to her. When she was put up for sale, her princely lover sought to buy her, but was outbid by the very youth who had been his messenger. One day, entering her chamber, this betrayer found her searching a casket for some belonging. Joining her, he rummaged through it, and a letter fell out, penned by her former lover, scented with ambergris and tenderly preserved. Furious, he demanded, "Whence came this, wretch?" She replied calmly, "You yourself brought it to me." "Perhaps it is newly arrived," he pressed. "No," she countered, "it is one of those old letters you well know." The Qadi concluded, it was as if she had thrust a stone into his mouth. He stood confounded, unable to speak another word. Of separation. We know full well that every union must dissolve, every nearness must one day part. Such is the divine decree upon men and lands alike, until God inherits the earth and all upon it, and God is the best of inheritors. No affliction in this world rivals separation. If souls were to flee their bodies for its pain, or tears their eyes, it would be no wonder. A philosopher, hearing one call separation the brother of death, retorted, "Nay, death is the brother of separation." Parting takes many forms. First is that bounded by time, certain to end, promising a return. Such separation weighs upon the heart, a lump in the throat, eased only by reunion. I knew a man whose beloved was absent but a single day, yet anxiety, fretfulness, and waves of anguish so overwhelmed him that he neared death's door. Then there is separation by deliberate barrier, confining the beloved beyond the lover's gaze. Though under the same roof she is parted, and this breeds no small grief and regret. I have tasted this bitterness myself and found it sharp. My verses echo this pain. Each minute of every hour her house lies within my view, yet she within remains eternally veiled from sight. What worth this nearness of abodes to me, when spies stand guard to bar my approach? Alas, sweet neighbour, whose steps I hear, yet know that distant Cathay is no farther than thou. As a thirsty man spies sweet water deep in a well, but in fevered rage finds no path to reach it, so too the dead, hidden in their tombs' gloom, are kept from us by naught but cold stone between. In a longer ballad I penned these lines. When shall a soul torn by passion's grievous pain find balm? When shall a house whose dwellers hide afar draw near? Ah, happy days of memory, when Hind was neighbour close, yet India were nearer to the bold soul than Hind. Yet nearness grants some solace to neighbouring lovers, as men athirst endure, knowing the fountain lies at hand. There is also separation the lover seeks, to shield from slanderers, fearing continued presence may bar future meetings or incite malicious tongues, leading to the beloved's strict seclusion. Separation may arise from dire mischance befalling the lover, his excuse to be weighed by the urgency of his cause. I recall a friend from Almeria, compelled by business to journey to Jativa, where he stayed in my home. An amorous tie in Almeria gnawed at him, his sole desire to conclude his affairs and hasten back. Yet scarce had he settled with me when Al-Muwafaq Abul Jaish Mujahid, lord of the Balearics, marshalled his forces against Khairan of Almeria, intent on his ruin. War severed the roads, land routes were guarded, and seas blockaded by fleets. My friend's anguish doubled, despair nearly extinguished him. He found solace only in solitude, lost in sighs and sullen grief. By my life, I never thought such a reserved soul would yield to love's tender call, nor that his stern nature could answer passion's plea.